Yeah. All right. Uh, got a lot going on today. Good afternoon, good evening, and good day to everyone. Happy spring holiday, no matter what belief system you subscribe to. Even if it's as simple as, hey, it is after school. We are on spring break. But really cool. A lot of the religions have their holidays all lined up this year. You've got the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, Sikhs, and I think there were one or two more. I can't even remember. There's so many all at once, which is really cool. Bear with me one second while I make sure I'm on the right microphone, and I am not. At least it's one that's right in front of me. But let's get on the right microphone here. There we go. That should sound a little more full. And I've got a lot of news today. I don't even know where to start. There were some issues at work that I had to tend to, so I didn't have any time after work to sort through and kind of massage everything. So there were good segues, and then there was just so much news happening. So let's pick one to get started. Techno King wants to buy Twitter. Yeah, what do y'all think about that? Good evening to Anders. And yes, Zachary's got another one that came up just last night and this morning. Hell no to paying to for a mobile charger. I will not take delivery without it. For the price previously agreed. Yeah, if they this is one that's kind of developing. I've got it towards the bottom of the list because it's still in chronological order. Uh, Elon did another one of his. Oh, statistics show that people don't use X. In this case, X was the mobile charger, and they decided that they are not going to include it with the cars anymore. At the time, the order page was suggesting that for $400 you could order a new mobile charger, or you could get a mobile connector, or you could get the wall connector for a similar price. And I think the third option was supercharging, which is not really the same thing. That's even worse than having to buy gas all the time, because now that would definitely slow you down if you had to supercharge every day. Um, then this morning they relented a little bit. Elon saw that that wasn't going down very well, and they decided they were going to reduce the price of the mobile connector kit to $200. So if you went over to the sales page already said $275, so it's a $75 savings. But if you look at the car order page where it listed $400, that's a $200 savings. So it's depending on how you want to look at that. And now I feel like I was feeling like a jerk for thinking about not including the mobile connector with my Model S when I sold it, but I did the right thing and sold it with the car. But now it's like the company doesn't even want to do that cool thing. So it's like how do I could have had two mobile connectors. I use the one that came with the car right now in this rental place. I use it every day. At first we were using it on 110, and now I've got the adapter for the dryer, and so I'm using it on the dryer every day. But at my house, we've got a 100 amp circuit connected to the Tesla wall charger, which would give you 80 amps because we had planned to add the second charger on board to the Model S. But we used that money for the down payment on the Model X instead. And so that one can charge at 72 amps. So even before they took out the lumbar, they'd stepped down the charging from 80 to 72. And then by the time the Model 3 came out, they decided they were going to step down the charging to 48 amps. And so having such a more powerful charger is kind of overkill once we're through with this car. If the Cybertruck and the Roadster don't, not that I'm getting a Roadster, but if the Cybertruck and the Roadster don't bring back higher amperage charging, then it's kind of a waste to have an 80 amp charger. And I want to thank Zachary for the tip there. Here's to supporting your podcast. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, so let's see. We're talking about what do you guys think about Elon buying Twitter? I see any number of ways it can go, and then what ended up happening with that was he put his offer in for what was it, 54.20, which was a premium, but not an all-time high for the company. And then the board decided they wanted to do a poison pill. So if Elon gets more than 15% of the company, then they're going to flood the market with more shares, which is I thought it was interesting until I saw how much of the company the directors owned, which is really quite low compared to some of the other companies that we've seen and talked about here on the show. And like we're talking under 1% for everybody except Jack Dorsey. He owns 2% to Elon's 9%, and the I think it was the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They object to Elon trying to buy it, and they claim that it's because he's offering not enough money. But somebody on Twitter was having a conversation with me and brought up a really good point that perhaps that is their smokescreen because it makes them not sound unreasonable. But perhaps what's actually going on there is they won't sell at any price because they don't want to give up the control of that asset. I don't know how much. I mean, I can see where that's coming from, but I don't know how much I give that one because they don't seem to be exerting much control at the moment, and there are plenty of things to continue to fix with Twitter. Like eventually, we're getting the edit button, and it was kind of interesting that Elon made his announcement right before Twitter was going to do that. And but like right now, I'm in some sort of like weird pseudo ban. Like I can like some posts, but I can't like all the posts I want to like. And it's not like I'm liking too many in a row. Just randomly, like if I can't even figure out what the rules are. Like it can be somebody I'm following and is following me, and they'll let more of the likes go through, but not all of them. Just randomly, like, yeah, you can't like that post. It'll show it and it'll roll it back, which is interesting to me. Let's see. Zachary says my other Twitter account got permanently suspended for criticizing Saudi Arabia connection to terrorism. Okay, so they might be then. That is interesting, and we know that they are not exactly on the up and up with us right now from several incidents that occurred over the last couple of years. And I'm broadcasting this on Twitter, so so I don't want to get cut off there. So I guess that was Elon's complaint. There was censorship, and it's not a First Amendment issue because they're a private company. If you take Elon's word that they're a public square, then maybe, but not. They're not. They're not. They just aren't. And there were a couple of really good arguments posed to Elon. He even did a TED talk, and the presenter there said, "Okay, so where is there a limit?" And Elon says, "You don't obviously have the legal limit, but I'm curious, how everybody else feels about this because that one was a lot, and for those of us that use Twitter, it feels a lot bigger than it really is, and it does have more influence even for folks who don't use it because all the politicians, all of the celebrities, all those folks are on Twitter, but they all use it at different levels. So it might feel, for those of us that use it, it might feel bigger than it really is, but it does still have worldwide reach and impact, except in China and probably Russia now. Yeah.
Well, this is on the Elon Twitter, right?
Elon buying Twitter.
Yes, Elon Twitter. So I have two minds about this. And one.
I'll be back.
Sorry, children in the middle of my casting. It goes back to why he's advocating for free speech. There's such a thing, you can sue for slander. And that's basically what the last administration has done, is because they've used so much misinformation to cause something that was violently, historically, that happened in January 6th that should have been curbed off to begin with. However, it's a double-edged sword. Now, I agree with for better or for worse. I've said this before. Elon being on Twitter has required other companies and other CEOs to be more transparent.
I don't think we would have ever seen this back and forth we have with Ford and GM even to a lesser extent if if it weren't for Elon and others.
Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Who would have even known like on the regular? Who would have really known Farley and Barra? It would have been a lot less people.
I didn't even know that Jim Farley is related to Chris Farley. By no means.
I found that out way later.
Yes. Just because you understand that people have the same names and not be related. So to understand that Jim Farley and Chris Farley are related blew my mind. So when somebody goes, you know that happens. No, I didn't know. And so was it a little bit crass that you use that joke or that use that gift? Well, I can't find it nowhere. That's a talent in and of itself to find the right gift for the right purpose. But I was like, no. And if it did, if you understand a person, it makes sense. Does it come off the right way? No. So yeah, the Twitter part, I understand. I also understand countries like China, and Saudi Arabia. They may block certain things, and there are people who who leave this country because they want that freedom. And
Yeah.
people don't understand that process. So it's a double-edged sword. If you look at it from a neutral standpoint, I think Elon is onto something, but not onto something. And
I think that he sees something there, but because of the position that he's in and his life experience, he may not fully grasp it. But it's kind of interesting to see that he sees it. Zachary has a really good point right here. He says when Mark Spiegel, the infamous short seller, suggested Epstein should have a meeting with Greta Thunberg, I reported him to Twitter, and then Twitter said it was fine. Like that right there, advocating a known child abuser to have a meeting with a child is very uh,
shady.
disgusting speech. Yes, and um, so I mean, there are limits to all of it. He said also plain sight was wrong by Erin Greenspan. She's doxed people and harassed many Tesla owner fans and investors. Zero consequences for him. Yeah, that's another one that like where do we draw the line? And that was what I liked about what that presenter. Um, I think it was Mr. Steven. What he put up to Elon. He's like, all right, so how far do we go before we actually start to put the brakes on? Like, um, all right, so Elon famously doesn't want people to put his jet's whereabouts on Twitter. So the guy's like, all right, what's wrong with that? All right, well, how far do you want to go with each different step? And he kept stepping Elon into it. So I'm hoping that Elon was listening with that.
Well, okay.
If it
So
even goes through. If it even goes through. Because,
true.
yeah.
The steps people don't understand. We witness history in the making, and I'll jump to the next topic. We're witnessing history in the making, and for Elon, the thing with the jet, he's right. It is a security issue. He's more aware of that than any other person available. At the
Right,
same
but,
time,
but
your freedom of
if he's going for no holds barred, then he shouldn't get a pass.
but your freedom of speech, when it comes to doing harm like this, with the Jeffrey Epstein part, with the Aaron Greenspan part, that's going to do harm. That's where you relinquish your right to free speech because now you're inciting harm, you're inciting something that's of violence, and that's why I understand banning the last administration's leader for something. That's why I understand that because it's inciting violence. Other than that, it's free game. Like you can say it's a little bullying, but it comes to where you hash it out and talk.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to. Oh wait, unless Dawood's got something to say on the topic as well. Still setting up. He's got his headphones on. That's good. Turn my headphones up. There we go. I heard it pop. Oh,
Okay, all right, there we go.
there
we
you
go. Actually, I don't have too much. I don't have too much to say about this. As far as the substance of it, I don't follow Twitter very much, and I know Elon makes it very popular. The only thing I have is funding. Is he now going to get in trouble again with the SEC with funding assured?
Probably. But that was another interesting part of that interview where he said that he felt that he was compelled to lie, otherwise, his child was at risk. In his case, not his actual biological any of his children, but the company. So I'm curious to see the real data come out of that. So next up on screen, we've got a tweet from Trevor Page. Used to be Model 3 Owners Club. He retired this week, so that's another bit of news right there. So he has stepped back from the Model 3 Owners Club and has sold the enterprise to a social media company that should take good care of it. We'll see how that all plays out. Usually these things go pretty smoothly. He says, after being off the menu for a while, the Roadster reservations are back if you have $50,000 to spare. And well, he's got two of them coming for free from the referral program. So he has not been following the day-to-day like how to order one because he doesn't need to. So Fred Lambert points out that now he took a lot of flack because of the way that he approached correcting all these other places because he himself has been wrong in the past. But he's right here. He says, I see several reports about Tesla reopening reservations for the Roadster. How this is a positive sign, but it's not accurate. Tesla never stopped taking reservations for the Roadster. This stems from a Reddit post that the publishers didn't even bother verifying. So what happened with that is the Roadster Founder series, a couple months, years, time flies in this bubble we're in. The Founder series Roadster closed reservations, and what might have happened is the Roadster became open in China and a couple other places, but I don't think that it's possible that somebody conflated the two. But the point that Fred's making here is that you could have always given Tesla $50,000 to wait in line for a Roadster. And as Marquez Brownlee, MKPhD, pointed out, if you had put down the money on a Roadster when they announced it, you'd be looking at $8 million if you had put that in stock instead. But as he and several others point out, that maybe if you had $250 that you can just $250,000 you can just set aside and not worry about for a while, maybe that was never an issue anyway. But who doesn't like having a little bit of extra scratch on hand, right? Then last week I showed you
real quick on that one. Sorry. When people say that they could have just invested in stocks are volatile as crap.
Yes.
Any other means of saving to do that, Graham, or saving that money for that original Roadster, I think applies in your case. That person who can afford it will go ahead and throw it in there and leave it as it be. Hence the $100 Cybertruck reservation, the Lightning. Those, if people got that $100 to do it, that should be affordable to most people who really want to jump into it. And because of the Cybertruck, you're like, he has a history of coming through, whether he's on CP time or not, but he has a history. So you can trust that $100 in there. Yeah. And I think that's the process. You can always say, oh, if you invested in the stock, you don't know where the stock's going to go. I mean, it could tank.
Right.
Knock on wood.
When I got into Tesla, I bought a couple shares of stock, and I bought an Xbox. Had I bought more shares instead of buying the daggum Xbox, I'd be in a really good place right now. But knowing my luck, I would have just lost it all if I put it all in the stock, because that's just how stuff works out for me. And he says that perhaps it is Elon's autism coming out. It's a possibility. The fact that he doesn't understand he has a social blindness, as many folks on the spectrum do, and that very well could be it as well. So last week I talked about this Cruise automobile that got pulled over by the cops running without headlights. That the way I captioned it was, all right, so it pulls over and it's like, oh, you wanted me in particular to stop? Okay, what do you want? Can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man.
Ain't nobody in it. This is crazy.
I don't know why he keeps trying the door. Still. And it leaves. But then it pulls over again because the guy's lights are still on. And then the rest of the video is just the cop again tries the door handle and then tries to figure out how to execute this pullover, this stop on this vehicle with no driver that's driving around town with no headlights on at night. So Cruise had a response to that. Cruise Automation, they said that we have more details. Our autonomous vehicle yielded to the police vehicle, then pulled over to the nearest safe location for the traffic stop, as intended. So that's also what I was saying with my joke. You can't get, oh, you wanted me in particular to stop because it pulled over because there's a cop coming up with the lights on, right? But then when the cop turned his lights off, it drove away because there was no reason for it to be pulled over anymore. But then when it realized it was trying to pull it over, it stopped, and then the cop hopefully did the right thing. Which Cruise then goes on to explain what the right thing is. And of course, yet again, this is one of those times I don't get all of the tweets in the thread I want. They went over, and I think I did save the video at least. Stand by. It's not showing that I did. But so Cruise then went ahead and showed their training video on how to respond and how to get into the car. So it's very similar to the way that Tesla, Toyota, GM, others show you how to cut into their cars and stuff like that. But they also show you how to pull it over, how to call the company and get them to put it in manual mode or shut it down or whatever the case may be. And I still think it was funny the way that it just kind of drove off, and it shows the need for further training in the city that they operate in. That the cop didn't know the procedure to call them and tell them, hey, each car has a name written on it. Is, hey, Cindy's acting up, and then they would say, oh, Cindy has her lights off. Okay, let's turn them back on, and have a great day, officer. So it goes to show that we still have ways to go, and you can't train everybody.
This
So-
is funny. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to go actually back to the one you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
When you were referencing the Marques Brownlee quote about, investing in Tesla early on. So actually, I love that video that he said that in. And I actually watched it again this morning because I just love how it breaks down the whole idea of these reservations and how difficult it is to do what Tesla did to actually manufacture the car. So that's just something I just want to comment on because I just love that how you broke that down. Step one, draw 2 circles. Step 2, draw an owl.
Finish the owl. So Lee brings up a good point. She says they need to communicate this, and they do. Lack of transparency is how it appears. Yes. So I think what happened is they didn't communicate it correctly. Like this happened a lot of times when I was selling hybrids. I was like, hybrids were new, and I was one of the few people who was knowledgeable on it. So every now and then, the fire department the police department would come on down, and they would just say, "Hey, show us about these hybrids. How do they work?" And I would give a little demonstration. But the companies have now they have published in all the fire department documentation. They've got videos on YouTube. They've got links to those videos in YouTube on the first responders guides. But they need to continue to publish this and make it more accessible, because what if your fire department doesn't subscribe to the right version of the fire department guides? What if they only published it to version 1 and your department is in the West, so they only subscribe to version 2? There is a serious risk of life from first responders not being fully informed on this. So yes, you may publish it in the right places, but you need to treat it like advertising and just keep blasting. Obviously, you don't need to blast to the whole world, but you can now pick and choose, advertise to each of the fire guilds or whatever in each state, each of the police unions, etc., to make sure that everybody really does know how they work and what to do when the time comes. You have to drill and you have to practice. The same thing that Tesla did with with not just with the cars, but with the solar roof. Same fire department that showed how to take apart each of the Teslas also showed how to break down into the solar roof. He showed what happens if you try to stand on the tiles. Your fireman is going to slide off the roof, and it will not be pretty. I was so scared when they showed that, because the camera angle looked like they were showing on a real roof, but it was a real roof, but it was on the ground. So when the guy slid, I was like, oh, and then he fell onto the tarmac because it was only 6 inches off the ground, not 12 feet off the ground. So, but I can imagine that if a fireman also thought like I did, that this was up in the air on a regular roof, that would drive that home. You cannot step on these tiles, and
That comes, and I agree with you, that comes with training. Weird fact, I've been through incipient firefighter training, like small room style, due to the chemical plant I was in office, substantially. The training is something, it's paramount. I understand the company trained the public sector people that have to deal with it consistently, but I'm also of the mindset, as a public sector company or industry force, police force, firefighters, you have to make yourself prepared for it, literally everything and anything that you may come in contact with. Case in point with the Tesla and the kids in the rear seat jumper seats. Or you having to put on dog mode on the car, because it's not like a regular vehicle. But if we already have issues with the police dealing with human beings, then you definitely need to deal with that ability to train for an autonomous vehicle. Same thing with electric. You can't just throw water at a battery. You're going to have to either find a system and dump it real quick, or hold it. And we train for that.
That's another part right there. You do throw water on the battery, according to almost all the manufacturers.
Okay.
They actually say don't use foam if you can help it. But if they don't get that training, like we saw with the one fire department that was complaining about how they wasted all their foam, and then they had to do however many gallons of water. if they had started with the water, then they would have never wasted the foam. And
Exactly.
and then as Lee said, especially the police, since they're out on the streets, one of the comments on my little joke about how the car was the gingerbread man, you can't catch me. They said they're surprised that the policeman didn't try to tase the car, which is kind of a joke in itself, but that is a legitimate thought. Like, hey, this thing isn't responding. It's electric. I've got some electric right here. Let's zap it. If that worked, then you might have an out of control car, depending on how the system responds to excess voltage coming in from outside like that.
That's wrong on so many levels.
It could slam the pedal. Who knows what happens? Hopefully, it would just shut down, but you never know. Lee also wishes us a happy Resurrection Day. Huh?
Hello, happy day also. I shouldn't have laughed that hard as the taser references. I should have, because I understand both concepts.
Well, he didn't. It was half joking. They said, well, they're surprised he didn't tase the car.
And the thing is, Too Fast, Too Furious, they actually did it. They tased the car, like a predator. Too Fast. So it works.
All right. So then we have let's do this one. So Sawyer Merritt is correcting a bit of that he deals in rumors and speculation as well as actual fact. So he's correcting something that came out earlier where he suggested that that it was confirmed that Tesla had purchased a Nevada-based lithium mining company. Their stock symbol is $LTUM, but the agency cited in the release says that the release is not real or authentic. So basically, the place that everybody's using for proof, they say it's not real. We didn't do that. So even though Elon said they might get into mining, and he talked at Battery Day about how they have a new technique to extract the lithium with salts and extract it without water, this is not that yet. And I respect places that come back and follow up on their stories. That's why I always try and do the same with us. But as we saw, lithium has gone from a couple tens of dollars a ton to $78,000 per ton for lithium. So it's very likely that Tesla will be doing something about it in the near future, because that's too much of a markup. Even if lithium is not the major component in the lithium-ion battery, they still use a couple kilograms of it per car.
Definitely agree. Definitely. Tesla's one of the few companies that has the capital and the liquidity to actually make a closed loop system from start to finish. So it's going to be interesting business standpoint to see how they play this out.
Indeed. All right. So then there was this one. Yesterday, it was reported that Tesla's battery in California was shut down pending a fire investigation. But the project in question doesn't even use Tesla batteries. There are Tesla batteries on site, and they are expanding the Tesla battery at that project. But the one that was shut down is not using Tesla batteries at all. So accuracy in your reporting is kind of key.
Clarity.
The ones that were shut down were actually LG batteries, very similar to what we saw with the Bolt and the Kia and the Hyundai and the Chrysler Pacifica. But they weren't Tesla batteries, which is the point.
So, I mean, how much of this is coming from Tesla?
See how it rolled my light back?
How much of this is part of Tesla not having like a media core or a press center? So
A whole heck of a lot of it.
Right. People find something going on that has anything to do with the battery or electric car anywhere. It's Tesla's fault. And they, let's get a quote from Tesla. What do you got? Tweet Elon and hope that he responds.
Right. Out of the millions of tweets he receives a day.
Right. It should be a dedicated team that we can call up. Hey, this battery burned up. Is it yours?
Right.
They say, no, it was not our battery. Or yes, it was, but it was for this reason that it happened. It's not something that you could expect to happen again. But
Exactly.
Tesla maybe that's why Elon needs Twitter, so that he can control that narrative.
Yeah.
Which tweets is supposed to come to him.
Especially since he's proven it can work with SpaceX and Tesla China. And I don't think the Boring Company has PR either. Hey,
This is why they need PR.
exactly.
We need a PR department.
Hey, Omar, what do you think about the training situation on that cruise automation car? Uh, at least there, like they only operate in one city, so it's like shouldn't the police and fire
Correct.
there know about it? I
mean,
understand.
everybody focus. It's funny because everybody focuses on the training of the AI, and how to make machines operate correctly and what training they should have. But moving forward, us humans need training too on how to interact with these AI machines, right? Like, so what do you do? What do you say to it? How do you interact with it? Or what do what do you do?
Yeah.
So training does need to happen on both ends. And I think this is a perfect example of why training needs to happen on both ends. Because they clearly were confused and didn't know what to do with this thing.
Yeah, and this is just in one city. Like they only operate in that city. So imagine this is going to be something that they'll have to consider before they give Tesla a driver's license. Aside from that it actually is driving better than a human, is now you've got the case of all right. So a cop pulls over a Model S. It's driving in some way he doesn't like. In this case, the lights weren't on, or he thinks it ran a stoplight. How do you get it to stop? What do you do when you get there? These are things that need to be considered and trained for. And then, like I was saying with the training materials, like if you only operate in one city, you better know what those fire and police and EMS use to get their training. But that goes back to what I said earlier, where for the whole nation, it's a lot harder. And then you've got Canada, you've got Europe, you've got everywhere they're trying to roll this thing out to.
And then
there are a lot of hurdles left.
That begs the question, should they come up with a standard operating procedure for all autonomous vehicles? Because one company comes out with one thing and says, oh, well, this is the procedure to do or whatever for our company. Well, what if a different company with a different autonomous vehicle has a completely different set of things? So now you want to train all the emergency personnel on every single different manufacturer's different ways of handling stuff? Maybe we need to start talking about the conversation of coming up with a set protocol that all the companies will use going forward and say, okay, this is how you deal with them. And then that way you can train all your personnel one thing instead of training for a dozen different things.
That's a good point.
And that was one thing where I was glad when Tesla pointed out that the AP 2.5 was capable of reading hand signals from a policeman or a crossing guard. Not that it actually had the code for it, and I don't think it still does, but the fact that it could do it back then means that the new system can handle it processing-wise. Now they just need to tell it what to do, and hopefully soon. But there are still more pressing issues with training the FSD system right now. Speaking of, I got an update finally after over 50 days. I got an update to FSD Beta 10.11.2 from FSD Beta 10.10.2. There were like 4 versions in between there and where I am now, but I got skipped on all of them. The first 4 drives I took with it were really, really cool. On the trips out, it performed way better than ever. On the trips back, it was either the same or new weirdnesses that it did. But I can see some progress, and I didn't have any zero intervention drives that these people keep bragging about. But like I said, I don't think they're lying. I think that, and I don't think they're exaggerating. I think it's literally because we drive in different environments, and which is the whole point of the training. Because if it drives perfectly in California and then you just release it to the U.S. and Canada, all of it, and it can't handle DC, we got a problem. So that's why we're training the system, or at least spotting errors for the people who actually program it to train it on, which is.
So I was using Autopilot yesterday in New York.
Oh.
And I can tell you this, it has a long way to go still with handling New York traffic. It did very, very well on the highway, getting me there and everything, but in the like actual city with a lot of merging lane, it doesn't do well with merges. Yeah,
right.
Merging lanes, emerging traffic and stuff, not too good. And with New York traffic, with these super aggressive drivers that like to zip in and out and cut you off and all that.
Yeah.
I just had to take over.
Right. Oh, so that reminds me. Yesterday, my car did something that I have done from time to time. I don't do it a lot, but somebody in front of me decided they were going to pull a Florida turn, and for those of you that live in Florida, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They turn the signal on, and there's nobody in front of them, and there's a wide exit for them to make the turn into their business they're trying to get into. They come to darn near a stop, make the turn very slowly, and then get out of the way. We were on our way to get ice cream, and the car did not have time to deal with that. And it was only going one more exit down. So I would have never done it for one. I would have done it for two. So the car, the lane next to us was clear. The car signals. It jets over the lane, gets around the slowpoke, jets back in aggressively, like to show, like, you should drive better. And then it signals and makes its turn onto, this one was not a driveway, but an actual street. And then it hooks the turn into the street. I was like, wow, I've done that. I get it, car. I was like, okay.
It learned from
what a Florida turn is. I knew what a California stop is. I had no idea what a Florida turn is.
Well, there's so many. Usually, it's a Cadillac, and this one was, and you're stops to make the turn.
So once I turn on FSD, all of these things that you guys are going through, that the car's learning from you, I'll just get the latest update, and I won't have to worry about all of that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That wasn't even a worry. That was just natural. I was like, whoa.
Well, my situation, I don't even have FSD beta, so
right.
The car's not learning from me. But
well, for you, what they have are campaigns. Right? Like they'll put out to the fleet. They'll say, "Hey, find me all the dump trucks with a stop sign on them." And in the car, if your car passes a dump truck with a stop sign, it'll take a picture, a video, and send that to Tesla next time you get home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you don't have FSD, it's just doing it all the time.
But only when there's a campaign. Like the Elon spread this whole idea that the car is capable of constantly reporting every correction it gets. It's capable of it, but they are not taking in all that data. That's expensive, and they don't have the computers for it right now. But the car can do it. But as Green the Only has shown, they don't do it unless it's something that they're actually asking the system to train them on. Like Elon gave them the example of at Autonomy Day. He said, "Well, what about was it Elon or Andrew? Andre Carpathy?" Either way, somebody from Tesla said that, all right, find me all the cars with bikes attached to a bike rack on the car. Like there's a bike moving sideways with a car. Take me pictures and videos of that so that we can train on it. And then all the cars in the fleet that passed a car with a bike rack attached to the bike sent that in, and now they don't think that bikes are drafting cars at 65 miles an hour. Yeah. Right,
this goes back to a thing
yeah.
that I don't think people get enough credit to Tesla. I also don't think people should have given enough credit to their car. Is that when it first came out, they had to learn via beta testing what not to do. The road was too small. People letting the car basically drive into something and be like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "They control your car next time." But now Tesla's like, "Now we know. Thank you for crashing your own car." So it's weird how they actually do that, and a voluntary beta test for no reason.
Yeah, they did learn from that, and they didn't have to because they told you don't. This is not a car that drives itself. Don't let it do something stupid. And well, those people found a $50,000+ lesson. I don't imagine if you bought the actual $35,000 car that you bought the FSD and all that. So that's why I phrased it that way. All right. So next up, we've got the European Parliament is encouraging reduced tolls for EVs, which, as we saw in Norway and in California and other places, that if you give people incentives to buy EVs instead of punishing them for it, or punishing them for gas, just make it easy. Give them some carrots with your sticks to make them choose the right move. And this one's coming from Evanex or EVNX, and so there won't be any comments on it because everywhere they share their articles with, they have the comments turned off. I like these wheels. Not at all with the article, but I like these wheels. So yeah, what do you guys think about giving incentives to EVs?
Well, I mean, that encourages the quicker adoption.
Yeah.
But I think right now the biggest issue with EVs is not demand.
Right.
I think there's enough demand right now to where whether they're incentivizing them or not, people have the desire to get them. The biggest problem we have right now is supply.
Yeah.
So
and we saw that with the Biden administration, where they put in an effort to ramp up raw material supply and component supply to make sure that we can make this switch faster. And I think it happened right about the time that Russia started their operation.
And I think that's the right move. I think that's where we need to focus, trying to ramp up faster and more production, rather than because in the early days, yes, you had to incentivize people to want to take the leap of faith and jump into this new thing. And it was so new, it was so untested, it was so such a frontier. But now it's to the point where it's kind of proven. It's not completely unproven anymore. It's proven. Right. It's tested. It's tried and true. So now it's more so we need to ramp up the production so that we can get the cost down, or those battery packs to get the cost parity, so that more people can afford them, and so that we can produce more of them and that we can get more of them out there.
Yeah, especially we've seen this with as the market has been doing what it's been doing. We've seen darn near affordable EVs. $35,000 for a Tesla, $30,000 for other people's stuff. I don't think there are too many EVs new on the market now under $40,000 before incentives, and rising. Like we saw oodles of price increases on the Teslas. We saw dealer markups on everything else. We saw a couple actual manufacturers that weren't Tesla raise their prices because of component issues. We saw, like, this in an EV or even a hybrid, but we saw Ford remove the rear air conditioner controls from the cars so they could get them out. They say they'll put them back later, just like Tesla put the USB ports back later. But as Omar's saying, we need the production, and we need to find a way to get it done, incentivize people, as well as just make it available for folks that want to make the product.
No, I was at a family event last night with a Seder, and all the cousins now want Teslas, but they're all like, the price is just too high.
Yes.
Even though I told them all to get them 3 years ago, they didn't listen to me then.
Back when it was only $30,000.
30 grand. They're looking at the Model Y.
Yeah,
I got my Y at 50 grand. Now there's 60 grand for the same car. I need to sell my car.
Right.
Maybe we could just
and another $200 for something to charge it with.
That's right. I'm sure you have an article about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not. Yeah, it's just the demand, but it's also meeting that demand, somehow getting these prices lower by getting the production up and getting the components for production up, which you talked about earlier. Is Tesla going to get into mining or not? But either way, each of those raw materials that go into each component of the car, we just need more of it so they can produce more of it.
Yeah, and we saw that they're taking the same approach with Giga Texas. They aren't making long range Model Ys there; they're making standard range Model Ys. So that means that each battery pack they make goes further because they don't fill it all the way up. That means they make more cars for the same amount of material.
Yep.
How much are those starting? Those starting at like 50K over.
That's the next thing I was gonna say. At the same price.
So that's the time I've seen them move backwards, because now they're coming out with a standard range that's going to cost more than the car I have and have fewer miles.
Yes. But it will be, stiffer and better constructed because it basically poured out of a mold. But at the same time, you've got a warranty for that. So it's like,
But the thing is that, again, we still have that same problem with the supplies. So they're supply constrained. The raw materials and everything, all prices of everything is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, because
when their cost keeps increasing, what are they going to do? They're going to pass the cost on to you, and that's what's happening.
Exactly, because if lithium was $20,000 a ton when they built Dawood's car, but today it's $78,000 per ton, they're gonna want to stay as close as they can to the low price, but they can't afford to do that, so they'll put less in and sell it for the same price.
Right.
Which means you get less. Just like we see it every day with
raw
food.
Material costs triple.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right. Yeah, we see it every day with food. Your king size shrinks to regular size.
Yep.
The same price.
Yep. Your chips are half full of air now instead of.
Exactly.
We see it everywhere. It's just we can't single them out for this. But it's a lot easier to see and a lot harder to take when the car is the second most expensive thing that most people buy. So it hurts that much more to see it happen that way.
Yeah, but I was very excited when I saw that President enforced the Defense Protective Act Production Act for this. I
Yeah, it's
said,
way better than saying let's release more gas, which in the short term we do need to do because everybody hasn't left gas yet. But hopefully in the future they can say, all right, here's the strategic nickel reserve, here's the strategic lithium reserve, and nobody will care about the oil.
right, right. It just seems like it's just everything a confluence that came together at the same time. That EVs started to prove themselves, and people really started to see that this is a viable alternative to a gas car. At the same time that the chip shortage happened, and now the supply shortage, and then now the energy shortage, all coming together at the same time, and just making anything associated with EV just go through the roof.
And then to add to that, the pandemic shortage. NIO has shut down their operations because of COVID-19 restrictions in China. I've got this later in the show, but the Tesla expects to open up later this week from theirs, and folks will need to stay in the factory for 10 to 20 days. So we talked earlier about how they had a 4-day shift from maybe 12-hour shift. That now has gone to 10 to 20 days in the factory. So definitely, hopefully they're not sleeping on the floor at this point. But I do admire the way they worked around the problem. But man, it must stink to I mean, it's great to feed your family, but like, man, you go in for a 2-hour shift and then it just turned into a 4-day shift. At least here, you're going in for 2 weeks.
I mean, you can pull it off for China. That's not going to fly in California.
No.
I mean, China's a different place. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a total different world there. So, like first of all, like the restrictions that they have with the lockdowns, like the way that they approach it in China is not the way we approach it here in the United States,
Right.
at all.
Right.
So, so now they're making up for the factory being shut down by doing something over there that, again, we wouldn't do it here.
Right.
We're forcing your people to work, 20 days straight or whatever. Like, that's not what we would do.
Well, maybe not work, but not go home.
Right.
Or, not go home.
You can't go home, so you might as well work.
Right.
You can't go home. You got to live here at the factory. Since you got to live here at the factory because of the lockdowns and everything else, you got to just stay here and quarantine here at the factory around each other. Just work every day. You might as well.
Right. What do you mean you sleep? What do you mean you sleep for 12 hours? We only calculated 8 hours for you to sleep today. All right, so Lee is asking a very good question. Is this the case of folks that are tired of the increasing gas prices? And I would say that is certainly an input to this that is added to the demand for EVs and hybrids. Because if you're sitting there and you normally fill up for $50 and now it's costing you $120, that's a hard pill to swallow when your friend next door who's been telling you about his EV for years now, and you're like, you know what, he was right. Let's go ahead and do that. And then you go to get it, and it's like there are none. So what do? They raise the prices to try to make sure they don't run out, and so now you're stuck paying a higher price because you waited. What do y'all think about that?
I mean, it's certainly. I mean, for a lot of people who are feeling that way, you're looking at the pump, and it used, like you say, it used to be $50. Now it's $100 to fill up the car. You think, well, let me get this EV. It's not always the smartest financial decision.
Right.
50 grand on the car. Gas prices, as much as I hate to admit it, will come back down. They go up, they go down. So you're going to make a decision now that's
overall they rise, but you're right. They do come back to an equilibrium for a while, and so
right.
to do it on the snap without making sure that your budget and finances can handle it is probably not a good move. Better would be to drive less, carpool, ride the bus, ride a bike, but
right. Hey, you said you believe they're gonna come down. That is possibly true, but they're not gonna go down. Think about it. You remember gas back in the day used to be 99 cents and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It went up crazy, but then it came back down. But then it was like the norm was $1.50 was normal, So right now, believe it or not, it's gonna come back down, but that $3 is gonna be normal though. That's still high if you look at it. So.
Yeah, it's rising, but not as fast as they make it feel. So like they want us to panic and buy new stuff. They want us to buy more efficient gas cars. They want us to buy hybrids. They want us to buy EVs because their whole thing is to sell us stuff. But
the companies are out to make money. So you're right. it's gonna no matter what, they're gonna set those prices in such a way that they're gonna make money, and it's gonna become the new norm. Yeah, so yeah, instead of the prices rising so dramatically and keep rising dramatically, of course they're going to stop, level off. They're going to drop a little bit, but then that's going to become a new norm. So instead of the normal being down here where it was, now the new norm is like here. You know, it'll go up to here and then it come down to here. But it ain't going to go back down to here where it was before.
Exactly.
That's just those days are gone.
That's why you need to, like, if you're already going to buy a car in 2 years, you need to make sure that car in 2 years, instead of being a gas car, is a plug-in hybrid or an electric vehicle. You don't want to just buy another gas car, because then you're still, for the next however long you keep your cars, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, you're now stuck at the mercy of the system. So the point wasn't go out and run out and get an EV. The point was to run out and get your next EV when you already were going to get it. Maybe move it up a year if that's something that you can do, but don't impulsively go and get a new car just because the gas price went up 70%. Yeah. So here's some good news. In Europe, the Ford e-Transit series have entered serial production. And I find it interesting that the Transits are always coming from Turkey rather than here. Like even the original Transit, the Transit Connect, they would make it over there as a passenger van. They would bring it over here. They would remove the windows and the seats because we have the chicken tax. I'll put a link to the chicken tax in a minute. It was actually easier just to bring them over as passenger vans to then sell them as cargo vans to get around the tax. In fact, let's do that right now, chicken tax. So what the chicken tax is a 25% tariff on light trucks, and originally potato starch, dextrin, and brandy imposed in 1964 by the U.S. under Lyndon B. Johnson in response to tariffs placed by France and West Germany on the importation of U.S. chicken. So it wasn't really about the chicken, it was in response to what they did to our chickens. So there's the Wikipedia article.
And that's still in effect since the 60s.
Still in effect. They
don't think it'd be a good idea to like revisit that and maybe.
This is why Elon is such a champion for expiring laws. You make a law and it has to expire, and people have to renew it to if it really was good. Like I think some of them should probably be standard, like don't murder people. But I can see some laws actually are in response to something, and they might not hold in 100 years. So maybe make it something that could be reviewed.
Yeah, and it's funny how certain laws that maybe should be permanent, they decided to make those temporary and expire.
Right,
voting rights or something like that.
Yes, civil rights and all, civic rights, them too.
The same thing should be true for certain monuments. You should only build monuments that last 25 years. After 25 years, we have to raise money again to keep. You want to keep this certain monument up? Yeah. Maybe let that one go ahead and disintegrate.
I like it. So speaking of electric vans, Mercedes-Benz has produced more than 25,000 electric vans. That is pretty cool. Well, like I keep saying, electrify all the things.
25,000.
25,000.
Okay.
It's a start.
It'd be nicer if it was like
a million.
250,000.
250,000. Yeah, half a million. That'd be nicer. But I'll take it. 25K is a start.
Exactly. All right. So
better than none.
Yeah. So then we see some full details have emerged on the 576 horsepower Kia EV6 GT. So we saw when the Kia EV6 came out, which also doesn't ship with a power adapter anywhere on the vehicle. I learned that today. We saw shots of it racing Lamborghinis and other powerful sports cars and sporty cars, and Kia said this isn't even my final form. They made a GT version. This is incredible,
and it looks aggressive too. I like it.
It does. It totally does. All right, so let's see what they say here about some stats. 214 bhp from the front motor, 362 from the rear with a second inverter, and the GT also has the E limited slip differential to bring power to all four wheels. Power comes from a 77.6 kilowatt hour battery pack. So it's the same battery that they have on the regular one because it's currently found throughout the EV6 lineup. The range is still 263 miles, which is good because you don't really like to lose range for performance, but that is a trade-off you typically make. And 0 to 62 just takes, so that's 0 to 100 kilometers, takes just 3.5 seconds. Not bad. Makes the GT off the line quicker than a Porsche Taycan 4S. Ooh. So if you want to beat a Kia EV6 and you want to buy a Porsche, you gotta plus it up there a little bit. You can't get the base model anymore. Oh, I didn't realize it was an 800 volt architecture. That's amazing as well. So the EV6 has an 800 volt architecture, which allows for rapid charging at speeds of up to 350 kilowatts. So a 10 to 80% charge takes as little as 18 minutes. That's a solid car. I mean, as much as I was already saying I like the EV6, this GT is more my style. Man.
That is pretty solid. I am kind of curious though.
Yeah.
About those charging speeds that all these vehicle manufacturers are advertising with the 800 volt architecture.
Yeah.
Number one, well, obviously there's not a lot of places where you can charge that fast right now,
Right.
but if you do it on somewhat regular basis, how's that going to affect the longevity of the battery pack? I'm curious to see what happens with that.
Same as supercharging, because 800 is the native voltage for the pack. So when it unplugs from the charger, it actually goes back up to 800. If it's on a regular charger, it'll split itself in two and charge at 400. So even when they're fast charging on a regular one, it's like for us if we're charging at home, essentially, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah. But still, you don't want to fast charge it twice a day, every day. That's going to destroy your pack.
Well, see that's the thing. Like I know people that supercharge their Teslas on a regular, like every day.
I did that for a year, and
And-
Tesla cut me off.
But their battery pack is fine, and they're still charging. Yeah, Tesla slowed them down, but they can still do it.
Yeah, I think this will be the same situation because it is built for it. The last thing Kia wants is to end up back in the news for flaming batteries, or to follow Nissan into the dead battery campaign.
Oh yeah, like the old Leafs.
The old Leafs, exactly. Yep. So then we have a tweet from Pan, and he says that Shanghai announced they'll open up 40% of neighborhoods today. Good sign. That was on April 10th, and that goes into why Tesla wants to do the factory reopening. This one is very important. A group that we're all part of, the EV Noir group, we constantly point out that that you got like noise pollution, sound, air pollution, everything from this situation. And so the other Omar points out this article from Knowable Magazine about how noise pollution hurts the heart, and that's been proven time and again. And so it says loud road and air traffic has been linked to greater risk of high blood pressure, heart attacks, and strokes.
Really?
Yeah, that's why like a lot of the cities, like New York and stuff, have higher incidences of this just from noise pollution.
I don't know about anybody else. If a semi drifts over and try to hit you, you get heart palpitations too. So it's not a great thing to see it every single day. When you're always on the road. So as somebody who's done ride share, I tell every passenger, I'm gonna try to get you there as safe as possible. This is gonna be passive as crap because I need my help. Definitely.
Yeah. So they have a chart here about the transportation noise, the disturbance of activities, sleep, and communication. Well, sleep is another good one. It's really important. You'll find if you need to get a sleep study about how much little micro interruptions to your sleep can affect your health, and that also leads to heart problems if you have to wake up too much, and or if your brain stops getting enough oxygen, as the case may be. So it's not just the annoyance when you're awake; it's literally the way that your body responds. Like they'll find that fetuses, like when they have a sound they don't like, their heart rate goes up. That mechanism doesn't really go away as you become older. Your body reacts to stress, even if it's something that you've just deemed as annoying. It might actually be worse. And this is a really good article. Let's thank that other Omar for that, and let's paste the link to it in the chat for you guys to read at your leisure.
Now, unfortunately, here's my anecdotal take. I was actually walking home from charging my car a couple of days ago, and I heard this really loud car coming up behind me. Mm-hmm. And when it passed me, it was a Tesla. It was just the tire noise. The road noise was loud, and it sounded like something hollow, like I don't know if it's the foam in the tires or something that's supposed to make it quieter inside the car, but outside the car, the road noise was louder, much louder than the gas car that followed. That was like the same size car. I said,
I would suspect
that's
that
not what I
either.
expected.
I would
I
suspect,
suspect that may have been some other type of tire that they put
Right.
in there.
that's what I was gonna say. They either went
Wasn't
aftermarket.
factory. I
Okay.
would think that
Yeah.
they put something. Maybe it was maybe
Like
they still had
like
one
cheap
I don't
tire.
know, winter tire or something on. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
I would suspect that either an aftermarket tire or something is very wrong with their suspension. Like they've got cups of tires will make a lot of noise going down the road too because they're not smooth anymore. They're like,
Okay, yeah, possibly,
Yeah.
but that's too loud to be a Tesla. What's making
Right.
that noise?
right.
all right. So then we've got some good news. If you have a VW that can take software version 3.0, you got some upgrades to your travel assist. You get automatic lane change detection, automatic lane change detection of roundabouts, slowing prior to signs rather than after the signs like our cars do. Because the law is you need to be at that speed by the time you hit the sign. So if you slow down after, you're fully responsible for that ticket. Emergency lane change in traffic jams and sign recognition. And we've seen with the way that people are just not driving today, like I don't mean like they're not on the road. I mean they're on the road and they're not interactively driving and they're running into stuff left and right. So emergency lane change in traffic jams would be a plus. And then sign recognition, which as we learned with Tesla, that's actually expensive now that Mobileye owns the patent for that. But VW actually uses Mobileye, so it's darn near free for them because they don't have to get around the patent. It's just already there. And so Tesla Adri calls out Musk and says, all right, your turn, Tesla and Elon Musk. Europeans are waiting because if you're not aware, in Europe, Tesla had to nerf their system. So it's actually worse than the one that Omar has today because they limited how far the wheel can turn. They limited all sorts of parameters to how the FSD and autopilot systems are allowed to function over there. In fact, FSD, as we know it, doesn't actually operate over there. So he shows a picture of roundabout ahead, 50 kilometer. Here, let's just make the pictures bigger and go through them. Roundabout ahead, you get a little warning in the dash there. 50 kilometers ahead for active slowdown. Emergency lane change. Emergency lane driver manually drove to the left. Travel assist continues like that. That's cool. Oh, I see, because there's an obstruction up ahead, so it's not going to run into that truck or all of these trucks. So when they shifted it over in the lane, it says, okay, you want to go to the left. That's fine. We'll do that. And then it's got the speed sign recognition and also construction. That's nice. Yeah, so this is what we want to see from everybody with their driver assist systems. And then there's a video to it as well. Yep. What do y'all think about that?
I think that car had 56% battery left, and it had 200 and something kilometers of range, which is interesting. So its total range looks like it's around 400 kilometers.
Not bad.
Is decent.
That is decent. Interesting thing to call out and look at. You're right. I didn't even notice that part.
Things I noticed. Sorry.
Right. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I like it. All right. So then next we've got.
I would just love my Tesla to not center itself in the lane when it's driving through. That gets on my nerves. The lane widens.
The line magically got wider for 12 feet. Let's go. Oh, well, now we got to move back over. Looks like you're drunk.
Yeah.
And it still likes to get nice and close to big rigs. And I'm driving out. You want to move over away from it in the lane. My car wants to stay centered and maybe get a little closer to the semi truck.
Yeah, the FSD
and the worst
version,
is in construction zones when you see those construction zones coming, and you know how like the lanes will narrow or they'll shift and they'll do different things, and the car just wants to stay in the lane. Even if there's a cone or a barrel there, it will literally hit that barrel or that cone
if you let it. Yeah.
if you let it.
Yeah.
Because it just wants to stay centered in the lane that's no longer a correct lane.
Yeah. So the FSD version of Navigate on Autopilot does pull over in the lanes for trucks. So it hugs the opposite side of the lane. It does get a little confused as to which way to handle it when you come between two trucks, as we humans do as well. It's like, which one of these is the better driver? And And it is better about cones on FSD, not on the Navigate on Autopilot. It'll try and plot a path around the cones. On regular Navigate on Autopilot, it still just says, "Oh, I'm changing lanes away from the cones." Like, yeah, but your turn is coming up. You can't get out of this lane.
Right.
Yeah. So then we've got Tesla China sold 65,814 vehicles in March, according to the CPCA. Local sales of 65,754, and 60 of them got on a boat or train. Not bad. But this goes again to show what we already know. Towards the end of the quarter, Tesla delivers local rather than exporting. So 60 of the cars were clearly not going to make it to where they needed to go. So why not put them on a train to get started for next quarter, right? Or a boat. So next week, or this coming week rather, on Wednesday, we will get a chance to see the earnings report, and this will be very interesting because there's a lot that went on between Musk and Twitter, the vote that's coming up to allow us to vote on whether or not the company should split the shares, and any number of things that have happened in the past 2 weeks. Man, it's been a busy week.
Split.
Right. So you can catch the coverage of that over on the Tesla Life show at the Tesla Life, and I will be there with you guys. All right. So moving on to the next one.
I think they were able to make so many cars in China because everybody was sleeping at the factory. That
Exactly.
makes it easier.
But they did lose 2 weeks at the beginning of this month, so it kind of makes up for it. All right. So Inside EV says, see the Tesla Cybertruck's rear wheel steering feature in action. And I was hoping there somebody had the video in line because I found the video on Twitter later, so it'd make it easier than having to go places to go play.
So watching the video, it is slight. You do have to actually look for it.
Yeah, like here with it being zoomed in, and an extreme angle. This is pretty much max turn on the rear, but as Dawood and I will tell you, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say I was up there every time. They
But me that froze, or you?
I think you had froze there, Marcus. What was you saying?
Can you hear me?
You were
Yeah, we
there
hear
at the time. You said
They were telling me that's what my sign say. I better not talk too much. But I was saying I was up there at the time, but they wouldn't let us bring out our phones. Then my internet just froze. It just warmed and said you better watch your mouth.
Elon's watching, Marcus. Elon's watching you. All right, so
they said you want to get invited again to the next party again, So, but
right,
it was
so
it's amazing though.
So in the zoom, you can see this is pretty much max turn for the rear, but the fact that the rear turns at all, Dawood and I can tell you from our Model X's that most parking lot lane lines are not set up for longer vehicles. The Model X to reverse into a spot is usually a 2 to 4 maneuver deal, rather than just drive past the spot and back in like a shorter car, like the Model S barely, and the Model 3 especially. Model X just adds another couple inches to it, and it only steers in the front, so you gotta wiggle it in there. And so I think that even though this vehicle is so much longer at 19 feet, the fact that it can steer in the rear might actually make it even easier. But let's take a look and see what that looks like. You can see it's a lot more maneuverable than you would expect for something so long.
I can see a little movement of the rear wheel.
Yeah.
That'll be very helpful. I back into everything with my X. It's just trying to pull that thing in, on a 90-degree turn. Forget about it. Everything is drive past, go wide, and then back in.
so that rear wheel steering. It's very subtle, but if you look at it, even that slight turn in those rear wheels makes a huge difference in your maneuverability. So I think that's going to help the Cybertruck a lot.
Absolutely, because it's additive. You add that to what the front is already doing, and so if you lock the front, and then you get the back, it goes just a little bit. That's like getting an extra turn out of the wheel when it's already fully locked, which is something that's nice to have sometimes. So then we've got a BMW iX uses canvas for artists in Slovenia. That's actually a pretty rad paint job. Kind of distraction of the beaver teeth.
You know, it's funny. I saw somebody do that with the with a
Model
Model
S.
X.
Yes, I was noticing that. I was like, man, I hope I
It
saved that
was-
one, but I didn't put them together.
There was a Model X that somebody did a road trip on, and they were stopping at every supercharger, and they were drawing. It was an artist, and he was
Oh, that one. I was
drawing
thinking
all
about
over
that
his
one.
vehicle.
Yeah.
And I actually met the guy when I did my road trip to California. It's funny, just randomly by happenstance, I stopped at one of the same superchargers that he stopped at the same time, and I talked to him and met him.
Nice.
But it was very interesting how it turned out, and it's interesting that somebody else is basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. The one I was thinking of, there's a Model S that there was a run for charity, and so people would paint on the car as they run past, and so like you had a couple of like really colorful handprints, and except that they went a little bit further, like the windows and the headlights were also covered in paint as well. So that one I saw on a tow truck headed somewhere, I guess, to an art exhibit, which was pretty cool. So then, Lincoln, of all companies, Lincoln, they're teasing an electric concept SUV that will debut soon on 420. Everybody wants to be like Elon, huh?
420, huh? Okay.
But Lincoln said don't count them out because I sure never thought of them.
Lincoln was not on my radar after they canceled their plans with Rivian.
420 is not on brand for Lincoln, but we'll see.
Yeah, their customers their traditional customers are very anti 420.
Exactly.
So here we can see a little bit of silhouette of it. It doesn't look half bad from here. Is that a
It's
coupe?
supposed to be like it's a pickup. It looks like a pickup.
It does look like a pickup.
Oh, it could be a pickup. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got the shark fin on the top, and then
Yeah.
the right side of the screen is the
The
front,
rear door. Yeah. Mhm. I was thinking that was the
Yeah.
mirror, but yeah, I can see that.
and the
I don't
back
know.
is the bed.
That's the bed. Yeah. Or it's backwards. This is the hood. Like you saw, they tricked us with the Cybertruck. So this is the hood,
Yeah.
and then there's this is the SUV. This is the front quarter marker. This is the mirror, and then there's the rear door there.
Okay, all right, could be that. Yeah.
Why is the shark fin backwards? Though is the next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part.
So it's either a pickup truck or an SUV,
I think
With
it's
a
a,
backward,
I think it's
with a
a,
backward shark fin.
depending on which yes, depending on which way it's going. Yeah,
you know what? I think they're going SUV with it.
probably so. I like that they didn't do the grill thing, assuming this is the front of it. But at the same time, it does look.
Well, is that the front or the rear?
If it's the rear, then I can see it. And also, you shouldn't have a big white light like that on the rear of a vehicle, according to the standards, right?
Yeah, it probably won't. It probably won't.
Could be the
First,
reverse
that's the
light.
reverse light.
Yep. Okay.
I think it's the front. That's the front. Gotta be.
If it
I
is
don't
the
know.
front, I applaud them for not going with a ginormous fake grill, like that BMW we just saw.
But that's,
We'll see on 420.
On 420.
In
Blazing.
2 days.
All
We'll
right,
see in
so
2 days.
on Wednesday. So do EV brakes in time? You know what would be really funny is if they do it during the Tesla shareholder call and nobody's watching. It's like, you guys don't want to see our new car? No, we want to hear about the financials. Do EV brakes and tires cause more particulate emissions? This is being asked by Charge TV. Let's take a look and see what they say.
Wait, why would the EV brakes cause more particulate when you're
Is it heavier?
regen braking most of the time?
And then there's that part. Yeah. So that was something I was going to bring up as we went through the article. I didn't read it yet, but I was like, yeah, well, you got regen. So how much did they take into account? Huge amounts of misinformation about EVs are turned out each day, and some of this has been coming from the UK's top environmental official. So it looks like Charge TVs is debunking this.
They're probably saying the same thing we're saying.
Yes. The unknown thing at the moment is how far switching from diesel and petrol, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is not news to us about anti-EV, anti-hybrid FUD from Europe, which is amazing considering that they need it even more than we do.
How could my brakes cause more particulate matter when I still have most of my brake pad material on the brake pads?
Right.
They're 5 years
Exactly.
old.
The last
if my brakes are lasting, almost the whole life of the car, my brake pads, then I'm clearly not putting more particulate matter into the atmosphere because they're not
Right.
burning off.
The last one of these that we went through, to get their test, they actually turned off regen on the EV, which I don't even think it was EV. I think it was a hybrid, which is just stupid
Oh,
because
stupid.
it's not a fair test if you're not using it the way a driver would use it. Like
Right.
on an EV, that gets you more range. On a hybrid, that saves you gas. So nobody's turning off regen unless they're new to the car and like, oh my goodness, it doesn't do what I'm used to. Those people are rare because most people who buy the vehicle like, oh, this saves me money. Let me learn how to deal with it.
Most people, I mean, by default, it's on. So most
Yeah.
people just, oh, this is how this works now. Okay, this is how this works. Let me get used to this.
Yep. And then I like to see this because Michelin, GM, Michelin, Goodyear, and a couple others have specialized EV tires, and so this one is got a little look at the Goodyear's electric drive GT tire, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So this is what we keep saying. You know, look and see who is producing these figures and their methodology, and Charge TVs did that for us, so we didn't have to pick it to pieces because that was their point of their article as well. All right, so inside EVs, electric vehicles, not the InsideEVs.com, they have reported testing challenges for EV powertrains. You need to be able to do your battery simulation and testing for vehicle-to-grid modules. So let's take a look and see what their look into the labs looks like.
So that is another point with the V2G stuff is, I mean, how much extra stress does that put on the battery? All the charging and discharging back and forth. And does that cause enough extra wear and tear to shorten the lifespan of your battery pack for your vehicle?
Yeah. All right. So that one, I was hoping they'd have more into the labs, and they don't. So here's the link to the article so you can read it later. We've got more to cover, so we'll move on. Sorry, guys. Trying to keep these things from hitting 4 hours, 5 hours on you guys. All right, so California drayage fleet operator orders 20 Kenworth T680E electric trucks. Electrify all the things, baby. And drayage trucks, for those of you who aren't familiar, these are the ones that typically are running all around the ports, at the containers and rail yards and everything like that. They don't typically go all that far, but they do a lot of work and they run a lot and they idle a lot. So this is nice to. That's the right thing to do. Let's see where they go. So we got 20 of them on order. Not bad, not bad. Yep. So there it is in its native lands, the dock. You got 4Gen Logistics, provider of drayage services at the ports and logistic terminals in California, has ordered 20 of these. David Duncan, the owner, says the two companies currently operate a combined 147 Kenworth T680s. That's significant. He's decided to order the electric version after test driving a recent Kenworth customer event. I was very impressed. I noticed that the T680 is very quiet and responsive. Nice. All right. Designed for pickup and delivery, regional haul, and drayage. So this, you actually might see this leave the port. It might be on the local runs as well. The T680E, and so the point about them running hundreds of these already shows that they'll take the electric version because they're familiar with it. This is another really good point. Like if you take what somebody already knows and loves and just make it electric, that sometimes is just enough. Nice. All right, to help support, they qualified voucher incentives through CARB. That's good. So that's the Clean Air Resources Board is helping them to make this purchase, to do the right thing. Good. And they're happy to be early adopters.
Nice.
Tell you about some more options you can pick. You can get with the powertrain is available with packs of 141, 209, and 280 kilowatt hours with ranges of 100, 150, and 200 miles respectively. And as Omar and Dan and I were talking about last week, people see 100 miles and like, oh, that's not a lot. Well, just like the school bus that we were talking about last week, 100 miles is plenty, especially when the thing never leaves the dock. So, on a lunch break, you can fast charge it or just level 2 charge it. And at night, assuming that you don't run at night, but this is the docks, so it probably runs all day long. And, but it may also work in shifts there, because you have maintenance and everything to do as well. So the truck may work in a similar shift to its main drivers. So it may work for 2 shifts and then break for a shift as well, which is pretty cool. Nice. What do y'all think of this?
Listen, anytime you can replace petrol with EV, I'm all for it.
Exactly.
Same here. Same here.
Not just that. That's yeah. You want to replace the petrol with EV, but so many African American and underserved communities are near these high pollution docks and loading stations, and so to get the pollution out of the air in our community would make a huge difference.
Yeah. Robert William points out that a driving school nearby him is using Kia 918 EVs, and well, which system do you want to use, Dan? Anyway, so he points out that the driving school near him is using Kia EV 918s, and that is really cool, because if these people learn to drive in an EV, then their first car will probably also be an EV, and they'll be comfortable with the concepts like regen, and they won't be turning it off and putting more brake dust in the air like that one study. What's it like if it's got music? We'll take a quick look at that. This is one sharp car, the Cupra. This one is a case. It shares it's a not quite badge engineering, but it's very much another car as well. But I like the styling on this one over the one that it shares a platform with. I think I think it's the Volkswagen.
We're not seeing.
Oh, you're not seeing it?
No.
Oh,
No.
sorry. Ah, there we go.
There we go.
I'm talking about it. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. So, yeah. So this very much is a case of badge engineering, but I think it looks better than the one it shares with. I believe the one it shares with is the ID3, ID4, and you can kind of see it from this angle that definitely looks like the Volkswagen, especially that fuel filler door. But I like it.
So what is it? Is this? Wait, is this a fully plug-in or is this plug-in hybrid? Like
It's fully electric. It's just the ID.
I
series,
see.
but from another brand.
No, because the first car I saw on the first,
The uglier one, yeah.
Yeah.
I like this one better than the other one.
that was no, but I saw tailpipes on that one. I'm like, oh well.
Oh, the tailpipes on the one. Which one was that?
Yeah, if you keep rewinding, not this car.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
right.
That one.
That one's
So-
got tailpipes.
So
that
I
one's
was
probably
looking
a
at
hybrid
that.
or plug-in.
It
Yeah.
not only does it have tailpipes, it had a big grill in the front. So I'm
It
like,
did.
well, is that a plug-in hybrid? What is that? Okay, but
I'm
this
after
one's
this
an
one
EV.
here. The EV.
that one was pretty cool. I like this one better.
Yeah.
This one's much
It's a
better.
lot smaller than the ID4.
That's what I'm thinking. It might be the ID3, especially with it only being on sale in Europe. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you
Well, a lot
can
of
definitely
times-
see the Volkswagen in it here.
I'm starting to think that some of these vehicles are coming out in limited markets because they just have limited supply. They can't produce enough of them.
Right.
So this is what you're saying. This is what they're using for driving schools.
No, they're not using it for the driving school.
Okay.
It was just another one he sent me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So then we've got the UK grocery train Tesco has decided they're installing free public chargers at 500 sites, which is great because now if I need to go grocery shopping and you've got EV charging and somebody else doesn't and yours is free, or just nominally, actually no, if I'm grocery shopping, I'm near home, so I'm not going to pay for charging at the grocery store. So yeah, if you give me free charging, I'm going to pick you over your competitors, and I do all the time. Like the grocery store we used to shop at had Volta chargers, and we pick them. We'd go charging, and if it wasn't full, great. If it wasn't full, great. We'd charge. If it was full, we were slightly disappointed, but we'd still stay and shop anyway because we were already there. And now the one that we like to shop at has a supercharger there, so we make sure to leave some room in the battery, and then we go have our list, and we go do our shopping real quick before Elon gets to charge us $1 a minute.
Now you're doing supermarket sweep style.
Right. You get section A.
Running
section
down
B,
every
let's go. We forgot the eggs. Oh well.
Yeah, this is the solution for people who can't do charging at home. At least one of the solutions that needs to be infilled with the whatever infrastructure money that's coming for charging. Now, I see people say, "Oh, they're going to replace gas stations with charging." That's not going to happen. People want to be able to stop, leave their car for 40 minutes, go shopping, do stuff that they need, run the errand, and then come back and the car's almost full.
Yeah, we will replace the travel charging stops. The the fuel depots, the toll
Oh, yeah.
oases. Those will get replaced with fast chargers. But you're right. We're not. Once you're in town, if you live there, or if you're staying someplace that's got charging, you're not gonna be using all that much public charging. But if it's free and it's already where you're gonna be, the grocery store, the movie theater, work, wherever, you're gonna use it. So
Mhm.
that's what we need is level 2 chargers in more places than. I'm not saying don't put more fast chargers; those are nice to have, but
I mean, honestly,
there's a lot of focus on them that's not warranted. Go ahead.
I would like to see DC fast charges in places that you're going to spend less than an hour at.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you're spending more than an hour, if it's a location that you're likely to spend more than an hour, like a movie theater, fine, level 2. But if it's a location that you're going to spend most likely less than an hour at, DC fast charging would be great, and that would especially help people that live in apartments and stuff that can't charge at home.
Right.
Right.
But I'll even concede and say, hey, in those cases, make the fast chargers paid and make the level 2s at the same locations free. So that way, if I'm a slow shopper, I can get some decent range back in an hour without if I can just go home, I'm not going to pay for the. But like you said, if I don't have a choice to go home and charge, and I'm going to go shopping anyway, I would gladly give you $1 to $10 to restore my range for the week.
Mhm.
For the week,
Yeah,
not just to recover the shop. Like, oh, I went to the shop, I recovered that trip. No, I need to recover more than that if I don't have a way to charge at home.
Right, because
Right, that's how I see it happening.
I don't want to go grocery shopping every day.
Right. This isn't France. What are you talking about?
America.
What you say?
Yeah, that's how I see it. I mean, they're building a new apartment complex down the street from my house. I don't know how much charging they're going to put in there, but for those people, they can go to the shopping center and charge up, 45 minutes, and they're good for the week.
Yep. Dan's made us all really small with his extra copies. All right. So anyway, let's go to the Captain Obvious section of the show. GMC says the commercials help them increase the Hummer EV reservations. Really,
You think?
if you advertise something, people will know about it. What a novel concept. Let's see what the article has to say about it.
They're just trying to justify their advertising budget versus their R&D budget,
Yes.
which is
The
totally flipped and
lens-
opposite of what Tesla does.
Yeah, the lens they've used on this makes it look like a toy. It's in crab mode, and there's a bunch of crabs here, so I guess this is an ad. Let's see if they use any music. It's going to get us busted. I bet you they will. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so they got the crabs walking across. Okay. Yeah, I don't have the money for for that music. Oh, we'd like to talk to you. Yeah, that's probably what I would do too. I wouldn't stop and look.
Right?
I'd run around them.
I want a new EV.
The dog is right. Yeah, the dog doesn't want to get into that. A snail? No, it's a hermit crab. Okay.
There must be some sort of exposition about this that we can't hear, because this is making no sense.
Crab walk. Crab walked away from the crabs.
Okay.
I don't see crab walk being something you use like more than once or twice in the life of the car. Maybe if you go off road, but even then, like, not really.
All right, a couple
Right.
things about that. Number one, do you think people who can afford $100,000 car are sitting down watching TV thinking, "Oh man, I didn't know about that one. I think I'll go get one now."
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh, that looks pretty cool. It can do that. Oh, yeah. Let me grab that.
I guess. That, and then I watched a really good video by the guy from what's it called Engineering Explained, and he really likes this car, but he likes it for the off-road capabilities of it. And it's a really capable truck, and he just went on about how if Chevy can make this, then whatever they put into it can be used as a learning experience for more down market cars. If you can make something that's fancy and this capable, you should be able to make a car that runs on the road more easily.
Yeah. I I wish I could afford to take a $100,000+ car off road regularly and not care about it. So the way my budget's set up, I can't.
Apparently, that some people spend that much for an off-road truck, but not me. Yeah, I'm mostly an on-road kind of guy. If there's not a
That
road
too,
that goes
that too.
there, I'm not going.
Hey, let me ask you: do you think LeBron helped it out too?
Oh, I think so for sure. I mean, 'cause-
Like, people gonna see.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
it always helps to have a celebrity in your commercials.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be. I mean, it's going to be a flex vehicle. Somebody's going to show up with it in front of a club or someplace I don't go anymore.
They gonna crowd way. They gonna crowd way their way out. They gonna
Here's the
crowd
thing,
way their way
you don't
out.
even have to use the crab walk function. The fact that you even have one of those is
Yeah.
already a flex because of
Yeah.
the price point of that daggone thing.
Right.
Starting at $110,000. Oh,
So,
and
yeah.
if you buy it from that dealership where the guy is flipping it, it's starting at $300,000.
The point he did make of it, I mean, it's kind of a halo vehicle for GM,
Yeah.
but as far as the point of EVs, you would do better, environmentally, just buying a Ranger, a gas Ranger over 200,000 miles will use less carbon than this thing. So
Maybe.
it doesn't. Right. I guess if you were going to buy an H2 Hummer, this makes more sense. Or if you were
Right,
to have
because
a
you're looking at
school bus,
47 mpge versus 8 mpg.
right?
And somebody pointed out that the battery on this thing weighs as much as an entire Nissan Leaf.
Yes.
Because it's big, so it needs a big battery. That's the same thing we were talking about last week with you got the airplane and the rocket equation is, it's heavier, so you need to add more fuel, which means you add more weight, which means you need more fuel to carry the fuel.
Right.
And that's an example of that in the flesh is the Hummer EV. That's why it's got a 200 kilowatt hour battery, because it has to.
But right. I mean, they're going to have to buy zero emission credits for their zero emission truck.
Yeah. All right. So next we've got, speaking of rockets, NASA has contracted Canoe to create an electric transport for the Artemis astronauts. So for the two of them they launch on the Boeing rocket, they'll get to ride in this. I wonder if this will also work for the Artemis Starship astronauts as well. Let's take a look at the article. But Dan and I like the Canoe, and also the now slipping my mind, the other one that looks exactly like the Canoe in Europe, Arrival.
That
Alright.
van looks a lot like a vehicle that you can't tell the front from the back. Like, you can go either way.
This can actually, and it's also probably very well set up for autonomy, because what you want is a living room on wheels. You don't want to drive it. And in this case, you got a lot of room for astronauts and their gear, so this is perfect. Their air conditioner packs and all that, like we see in the Model X. Like, the Model X seats, easily 4 adults, 6 if you do it right. But they only get 2 astronauts per Model X because they can't bend and flex so much. So let's see. NASA wants to put people on the moon in 2025 with Artemis. The vehicle also needed to have room for cargo, 2 cubic feet per person, as per NASA specifications, as well as 2 large doors for easy entry and exit. Okay. Here's the Canoe pickup truck, but it looks like they're going to use the van. Always with the music. So this is the front and also the back. The back is the same thing in red. I like the Canoe. Like it's if they make it to market, like for people rather than for NASA.
And that's an interesting way to do a frunk on a vehicle like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a big, huge hood.
Yeah, I think the Cybertruck and the Semi are going to be very similar to that, as we saw with the F-150 Lightning. So I liked what they did with this pickup truck, and I imagine the van will have similar innovation.
Oh, nice pull-out bed extension. I like it.
With the tailgate on the extension.
I like that.
Yeah, and then they also have a food truck version as well, which I was very interested in. Let's see. Yeah, more power in the bed. I think NASA actually made a good choice with this, assuming that they also have a backup contractor should things not go well with the company. Because making one or two is easy enough, but getting
I
into
like this
serial
one.
production is hard. Yeah, I really like this Canoe pickup truck. The van, it's not really my style, but the pickup truck, I like it.
I like that pickup truck.
Yeah. So I think NASA made a good choice. All right, let's see what's next. We've got Porsche demonstrates vehicle to grid from the Taycan. All the people keep saying, oh, EVs are going to destroy the grid, blah, blah, blah. EVs might save the grid. I mean, you've got on-demand power, ready at a millisecond's notice. Okay, maybe 3 milliseconds, but still, ready to go on a whim, able to synchronize perfectly to the grid. Good on Porsche for adding this in and demonstrating it. And as we see in Japan, the CHAdeMO vehicles are capable of doing emergency backup as well. This is pretty cool. All right, so for those of you that want to read everything, I'll put that in the chat. What do you guys think about that here on the panel?
I like it. I think V2G does have a lot of potential because there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, but the grid can't handle it. If all vehicles were EV, it would be too much on the grid, and we couldn't handle it, and it would destroy the grid." Well, here's an example of how it could be utilized to actually help the grid.
Exactly. Or selfishly, your own house if the power goes out.
Yeah.
I'm still, I don't know, maybe it's my charging patterns, but my jury for me is still out on the vehicle to grid for me. I don't always keep my car fully charged. You know, it's inconvenient for me to always. Well, it's cheaper for me to charge it for free, which means I have to go somewhere else. I just let it go all the way down before I charge it. So I'm more on a dedicated battery for the house, which I have, and it works out pretty well.
It's like I was telling my friend in the Facebook groups is that he said that buying an F-150 is cheaper than buying Powerwalls, and I said, well, how about you buy one Powerwall and one F-150 instead of 6 Powerwalls? Because now you've got the power for when you're at home, and you've also got the power wherever you go, but you also don't have to worry about your food going bad in the fridge just because you were on vacation and the power went out.
True.
The other thing to look at this way, though, is even for your case, they can say it's not going to be free like they were saying. Everybody except for that one article I pointed out was saying in Europe where the Crown is going to be reaching into your battery pack and stealing your electricity. Well, no, the Queen is not going to be stealing your electricity. What the correct article actually said is they will pay you for the electricity. So if you can say, hey, I need to be here by this time, I need a minimum range of this, and then by the way, I need to have this for this trip, and then you just set that on the screen before you get out of the car or from your app, and then if they need it, they tap your car for the amount that you said they could, and they pay you for the time and the pleasure, and you've made a profit. Because now when you go to recharge, you're going to be charging off peak, and and they'll give you a discount for that. So I think it actually
those are good points. And actually, one of the things, my Powerwall, so much of the solar I can't keep for myself because once it's full, then I'm selling the rest back at a very discounted price back to the to the producer, to the grid. But if I could keep more of it by putting it into my truck, that might be a good reason to do vehicle to grid.
Yeah. All right. Looks like Dan's computer demons are out to get him. So that black square is not actually him. So we'll go ahead and boot that one. Wow, I can't even boot it. He's having some real computer demons. All right. So while we worry about that, let's do this one instead. All right. So the Chrysler Airflow EV concept has been teased with a new nose ahead of the New York Auto Show. So a few weeks ago, we showed the Chrysler Airstream concept, and I thought it looked pretty good. But, prototypes are easy, right? So let's take a look at this thing. Here's the new nose. Ooh, let's see the whole car. Let's see them make 10,000 a week. Come on, let's do it. Okay, maybe not 10,000 a week. Who buys that many Chryslers? But still, they can make them in volume, and people will buy them, and it'll be good for the planet and good for Choice and everybody else.
Let's see him start off with at least like I don't know 1,000 a week.
Yes, let's see if we do 10 a week. Because we saw that GM could get by with 24 in a quarter, so somebody do something. All right, so let's move on because that's basically a free ad for Chrysler there. Federal tax credits will soon be phased out for Toyota EV customers in the U.S. Bet you feel kind of bad about all those 11-mile EV credits now, don't you, Toyota? Now you've got a real EV. A friend pointed out that, yes, that will probably not be the best thing for them, but at the same time, they are not going to express public remorse for wasting the credits. And as we see with Tesla, soon to be Nissan and General Motors, not having credits didn't actually stop them from selling cars. But at the same time, it allows people who would have to stretch to get an EV. It allows them to have to stretch less. So that's where I am on that. So what's going to happen here is unless the Biden administration's plans go through for the EV tax credit extension, they're going to hit that number, and then at the beginning of the next quarter, whichever, whether they hit it at the end of a quarter or if they run it in the middle, because what GM and Tesla did was they made it so they ran out strategically. Tesla just stopped selling cars in the U.S. They moved them all to Canada, and so that way they ran out on a quarter boundary. So that way that whole quarter was free and the next quarter was free, and then they started cutting down. Whereas when you've got dealers, and not just dealers, but Toyota has Southeast Toyota, which is a whole other entity, which is a weird arrangement. They don't have as much control over the situation. And so if some dealer sells the 250,000th electric car on the third week of the first quarter, boom, they finish up that quarter with the full tax credit, and then the next quarter, and then it starts to cut down, and then it goes away. But if you're strategic, like Tesla and GM were, it cuts down from the beginning of the next quarter, and the next quarter after that, and then it just makes more sense. It goes unlimited at that point. But Eddie says the credits came from hybrids. The answer is not exactly. The plug-in hybrids did qualify for the same credit as the regular EVs, but they didn't care on the credit how many kilowatt hours you spent. They only cared that it met a minimum. So if the Prius Prime or whatever else with the 11 to 20 mile range were meeting it by kilowatt hours, they would take a whole credit away from your kitty. And so then when you have a car that blasts it through like the Volt or all these full EVs, they count the same one car, but you do get more cash back from the ones that were more capable. So at that point you then wasted them on plug-in hybrids, basically. And I'm not saying plug-in hybrids are bad, but you wasted on a plug-in hybrid with an 11-mile range. So now when you need them for cars with a 200, 300-mile range, they're gone already because you didn't have the foresight, because you thought that EVs were a toy or whatever.
And that
hydrogen go
is the future.
Hydrogen's the future, baby.
Hydrogen. So none of these were strictly for EVs. None of this went to their Muranos or whatever those.
The Mirais? No, they didn't go to the Mirai. They had their own situation for that. But they were pure EVs or plug-in EVs of a minimum battery size, and then I think you get 250,000 units. And so what I was saying, my point was they were wasting units on cars that didn't really need the help. And so now that they finally got themselves an EV that's worth it on the market, they're out of credits. They're going to run out before the car even really hits the ground.
So they were wasting them. What did the manufacturer have a choice of which car gets the credit, or did they?
Yeah, they could have made real EVs instead of 11-mile EVs. Yeah.
So I've been hanging out with you guys too long. I was with my daughter and her friend. Her friend told me that her parents are thinking of getting a plug-in hybrid, and my automatic response was, "That's stupid." so, so
People forgetting a plug-in hybrid. They are a compromise. They are good training wheels. Like for me, driving a plug-in hybrid showed me that I can get by with 40 miles of charge.
Mhm.
I didn't need that lesson. Like I could have gone straight to a full EV, but at the
I
time,
guess if you want a $40,000 lesson on how far you can drive your car.
well, that was the thing, because mine could also run on gas. So, for 40 grand, I got a car that could do everything I needed to do. Whereas the next choice was 140 grand for the Tesla Roadster. I couldn't afford that at the time, and no, I was just out of school, and it only had 2 seats and a small trunk. So, I mean, the Tesla Roadster wasn't an option for me, and.
Those
So-
are excuses, Casey.
Exactly.
They were totally excuses, but they were legit.
And it's only you and your wife, so you only needed 2
I wasn't
seats.
even married at the time.
Perfect.
I was a single dude.
You had room for your groceries.
So you had room for the groceries in the seat next to you.
Exactly.
Go picking up chicks. You got the top
Nah,
down,
I'm
wind in
kidding.
my
You
hair.
know I'm kidding with you.
I know.
Now you should have a picture of me with the Roadster back in 2009. I couldn't even fit in the thing.
I don't fit in the Roadster either. When I worked in an Acura store, I sat in the NSX, and thankfully the roof was not on because I was over the bar.
If it flips, you just get to stop it with your head.
Yeah.
No, that's just. I mean, the hybrid is I guess it's training wheels, and it's some holding your hands into what the future is going to be. But I just keep seeing it as everything. You get all of the drawbacks of a gas car with none of the benefits of an electric car. So I mean,
Well, all the drawbacks of an electric car as well. You get like the worst of all the worlds.
Right.
Plus, you get to go do oil changes.
Yeah, you can still do oil changes, you can do tune-ups, you still pollute. You gotta go. You still have to go buy gas.
Yep.
And the
It's
research
heavier,
is showing that. Yeah,
range
people
limited.
don't.
Yeah.
They don't charge them up because I gotta go buy gas anyway. Why should I take this extra effort to charge the thing when I gotta go get gas tomorrow?
Well, that story changed a little bit this past couple months, man, with the gas prices. People are like, oh, I'll spend the extra 5 seconds to plug this thing in for for 8 cents
my
for
10
40
miles.
miles. Yeah. Yeah. So Eddie's ex is thinking about getting a plug-in hybrid because she doesn't trust total EVs.
I don't trust plug-in hybrids.
Well, there's that. But
You add more complication, you add more things to go wrong.
yeah, but
Now that you have both gas and electric.
this will allow her to realize that going electric is doable.
Right,
She just needs a
right.
bigger battery.
But as far as the tax credits, yeah, Joe Manchin says no. No tax credits for you.
Right, so it's not going to happen. So that's why I say that they wasted it because it's not going through anytime soon. So the Tesla Life is pointing out that France is beginning public consultation on Starlink after having the license revoked last week. So you remember last week we talked about that environmental group that said that Starlink didn't do the public comments, and somehow Starlink is a threat to the environment. Explain that part, but they did have a point that they didn't follow the rules for whatever reason. And so now Starlink is doing it the right way. But I have to think that there was a reason that government agency did it without the public hearing. I'm guessing it was the pandemic. That's the only thing that really makes sense. And we speculated that maybe it was astroturfing, that why the environmental group was the one objecting to this rather than an actual competitor or a citizen. So now they're going to do it the right way. So no more reason to complain.
Okay.
So if you have a comment either in support or against Starlink in France, you can submit it by May 9th. And hopefully they win it because I used my Starlink for a couple minutes and I liked it. I'm still waiting
They'll
for the adapter.
probably be fine. They just have to do it the right way. That's all, and do the formalities.
Yeah.
And then they'll be operational again. They'll be, approved again.
Yep. So Eddie, Dan brings a point. Hybrids are affordable in the public mind, and then an EV, which is a Tesla, we know it's not. That's what the public thinks. So A lot of people think that Teslas cost $100,000, and with every passing week, that becomes more and more true. But at the moment, they are still not all $100,000, and but it's all about public education. You got to teach people these things. So next up, Tesla's expanded recruitment for the Tesla Optimus bot, and if you're into AI or robotics, put in an app. Then we've got Tom Randall is pointing out that the EV investment figures always sound huge, but Honda's 10-year sales target would put them roughly 9 years behind Tesla. It also implies a loss in global market share. That's in response to this Bloomberg tweet that Honda plans to spend $40 billion in its push to electric vehicles over the next decade. So it sounds like a big number, but when you look at the grand scheme of it, it really isn't. Hey, that light counted. I don't know what I did to piss off Twitter. Many OEMs will not survive the transition as they're too little, too late. Hey, that one counted too. All right. So what do y'all think about? Like I say, electrify all the things. So even if it's too little, too late, it's better than nothing. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's funny how
agree.
these companies, for the sake of public perception, like to make these big announcements of we're going to invest this amount of money in EVs, or we're going to invest that amount of money in EVs. But oh yeah, this is over the next 10 years.
Right.
But then you look at, well, how much money do they invest, period, in R&D and everything else? Like in the past, like what was their traditional, what's their spending look like? And development of new vehicles or development and research and development and R&D and all this other stuff, what does their actual investments look like? And then you take a look at what their future projections are that they're saying that they're going to invest in EVs. And then you go, okay, so they're partially committed.
Right.
It's like they need to go all in. Is what they need to do.
Has there been a product like the EV where we see what the future is? We know now that it's the future, and we're not there yet. Yet we're watching all these companies drag their feet and not get involved. And all of us who have them and see their potential, or see their actual, want to see over the horizon to where everybody has one, but you just can't get there because of all of this morass that doesn't make sense. Once you have one, it makes sense, but trying to get everybody else to see, you need to just do this. It's so frustrating sometimes. But I don't know if there's been another product like that. I mean, we're waiting for the internet to happen.
The only other product I can think of, the only other product that comes to mind that's even close to anything like that is like the analogy with Blockbuster and Netflix back in the day.
Yeah.
Blockbuster just was adamant that, Netflix, you're irrelevant. That's real niche. That's cute, but that's niche. Nobody's going to want to do that. They're going to want to keep, and we're going to just keep moving forward with this, what we've been doing.
Yep. Or then you see they didn't adapt. Right.
So then they went away.
Look at Kodak and digital camera. They invented the digital camera.
Yeah.
And look what happened to it.
Yep.
Somebody go look at some of that digital camera equipment we have. Can we do something with that? Too late.
Well, even worse is like they knew it worked, but they were afraid that they would sell less film, which was true. But they gave up everything instead of just giving up a little bit. Greed, baby.
Yep.
All right, so the Tesla Life is also reporting that the Tesla Model Y standard range all-wheel drive will be priced at $59,990 US dollars, and is set to launch in the coming weeks. You can already get one now if you work for Tesla. But if you don't work for Tesla, we've been seeing signs that it's coming on their website in the code. So I like.
Wait a minute, the standard range is going to be $60,000?
Yes,
that's what we were saying earlier.
That thing cost $10,000 more than my long range, and I get 30 more miles or 40 more miles.
That's what I'm saying. I got the long range that gets more mileage, and I paid less money for it.
Yes.
I'm glad I got mine when I did.
I tried to tell my cousins. They were like, we don't want to spend that much for a car. I'm trying to tell you.
Well, we've been saying it on this show the whole time. Like, if you see the car that you want, like, go ahead and order it now. Lock in that price. Lock in what you're going to get, because if you don't, things change.
Hey, you could have had a free trip. You could have had a
configuration
free
that you
trip.
want may longer be available or something, or you may not get the charging cable may no longer,
Charging
longer
cable,
be
yeah.
included. The price may go up on you. You never know. These things will happen.
The
Or you
color
stick with
you
your
like
gas
to get
car.
canceled.
You
What?
stick with your gas car, and now gas prices go up. Dude.
Gas prices
You
go up,
can't
yeah.
win no matter which way.
Yeah, but if it's in the budget and they have the one you want, just pull the trigger. If it's not in the budget, I totally understand that, and I don't want to push you to get something that you're not ready for. But if you were already thinking about it and you've already got everything lined up, waiting on Tesla, waiting on these other groups is just an exercise in shooting yourself in the foot constantly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
So some of the back to the other article. Some of these companies are dragging their feet because they keep thinking that maybe lithium ion is not the technology. We need to
Solid
go
state's
solid
coming.
state.
Hydrogen's gonna win.
That's when we can get 700-mile range cars, and this one will do it. And at some point, it may come. And I'm wondering where Elon and Tesla are going to position themselves with that. When someone actually does come up with a better technology, is Elon moving fast enough where he'll say, "All right, well, I know I spent however many billions on these factories. Now I'm switching. Now I'm changing."
Here's
Or
the
will he
thing.
become the dinosaur like the oil and gas?
If
They say,
you've
we're not
invested,
changing.
if you've invested in gel-filled batteries and then solid state becomes a thing, you just have to swap them out. I mean, yeah, you may have to reprogram your charge controllers. You may have to reprogram the robot that puts the pack together. But you're already halfway there. If you're not even starting at all because you're waiting on the miracle of solid state batteries to come, now they finally come out. Now what do? You're starting from scratch.
Mhm.
You have to build the factory. You have to build the line. You have to. Whereas Tesla, GM, Toyota, all them, they just swap out the packs. You have to start from square one. So dragging your feet is just not good.
Does not make sense.
Yeah. Happy Easter to you too, DJ Clay.
Happy Easter to everybody.
Everybody who celebrates Easter. Because remember,
To whoever celebrates, happy Easter.
well, no, I'm saying because remember, all the holidays are this week. You know, it's amazing. They've all lined up. I'm impressed. I mean, I know this happens occasionally, but like it's rare.
Did. Happy Easter, happy Seder, happy Ramadan.
Yep.
All of that.
Also, so you got the Christians, Jews, Muslims, Sikhs, and I can't remember the other two groups, but they have theirs as well. It was really cool. And then, of course, spring break.
holidays
Those
to
who
all.
don't do anything. So next up, we've got Lucid has announced their performance version of their Air Grand Touring 446-mile range and 1050 horsepower because, we had to have 30 more than Elon, which means that Elon's going to do something in a minute. Because just 30 horsepower, he can find that. It's not like you made him come up with 100 horsepower. Yeah, they can probably find that in a software update. Shoot. So let's see what Electrek has to say about that. All right, so 446-mile range, 1050 horsepower. One thing we do know is it costs more. That was a complaint that a lot of folks had. So it's 200 more horsepower than the standard range, and not the standard range, than the standard GT, and 0.4 seconds faster 0 to 60. For how much money?
$1 million.
Not $1 million. Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's a big amount.
Oh, so my mouse doesn't get bigger when I shake it for you guys, but when I shake it for me, it gets bigger. So $139,000 versus $179,000 for the Grand Touring Performance over the regular Grand Touring. But
So
you get
besides a little bit more speed, what else are you getting for 40 grand?
you lose some range, as we were talking about earlier with performance, and more speed and more money.
So that's all. For 40 grand, you're getting a little bit more speed. Okay.
Yeah.
And losing a little bit of range.
And flex.
Mm.
Just for flex.
But if you're trying to get the Dream Edition, which I think sold out, then it's just 10,000 more, and you can get what you're already trying to get, but a little better.
This is for the Lucid Air.
The Lucid Air GT Performance.
I don't know. Mark is going to have to comment on this, but why do you need a car that looks like a touring car to go that fast? You're going to bring it to the track? It doesn't even look like it belongs on the track. Teslas look sporty. They belong on the track.
Yeah, it
This
looks like
thing
if you told me a Mercedes could do 0 to 60 in XYZ and had this many thousands of horsepower, I'd be like, oh, so grandma's gonna use that.
I almost really got to get to the doctor's office.
Well, my grandma probably would, man. We went on a trip to the Gulf of Mexico and she dusted my ass. I hit the speed limit on the Volt, trying to keep up with her.
Can we jump into this topic right here?
Yeah.
Way back when we were talking about the trucks, the trailer jockeys, the short-term, long range for the 100, 200, 300-mile trucks.
Right.
The semis. Those would be great. Swift Trucking Company, they have hubs. So you can send your trucks from one location to another. And 300 miles is perfect. Most of your warehousing and deliveries are within a 250, 100-mile range. So that's perfect. That is literally the best thing you can do with that type of semi-truck.
Yep.
I got that off my chest. Okay.
So Nissan has revealed the new 2023 Nissan Leaf. It's got updated styling and a simplified trim lineup. This is coming from Inside EVs. So only thing I could tell at first before somebody pointed out to me is the wheels. But they changed the grille as well and the lights. So let's take a look. But it's still the same underpinnings as the original Nissan Leaf. You got a new battery, new telematics and radio, but it's still the same Nissan Leaf. They just changed the skin to make it not bug-eyed and called it all new.
2018 Leaf, am I right?
It's the 2018. It
Well,
looks just like
whatever else they brought under the skin on the 2022, it's that same one on the 2023.
Are these new ones now? Are they? Has Nissan learned the lesson? Are the new battery packs liquid cooled?
They're still not liquid cooled, but you do get the Lizard
they're
battery,
not.
Okay.
which is amazing because they did learn it on the Aria, but they're still selling the Leaf exactly the same as it always has been, but with a bigger battery and a new radio and some prettier skin.
Are you gonna maybe park it in the garage?
See, the way my road trips are set up, right? When in the summertime, if I'm hitting the road and I'm DC fast charging multiple times in a day, this Nissan Leaf ain't gonna cut it.
Right. Well, because you can only fast charge Nissan Leaf once a day now for the from where they first refreshed it from the bug guys, so or the frog guys as other people have said. So as you can see from the gallery below, the Leaf has a refreshed front end, grille, bumper, and headlights. In addition, the brand's badge is now illuminated, so it glows Nissan-y. Glows Nissan-y. Nissan also says it's focused on improving the car's aerodynamics, but changes on the inside are minimum. Steering wheel gets updated with the Nissan badge and the new startup video. But folks have pointed out that they didn't bother if it is more aerodynamic. If it is more aerodynamic, they didn't bother to actually update the range with EPA, so it couldn't have been much. I mean, it is better looking.
Well, when I mentioned earlier about the adoption of the EVs,
Yeah.
I noticed that. Has anybody else seen a Leaf commercial with the new changes for the
No.
2018 only? See,
The only ones I saw were the gas powered everything, which I liked.
yeah, but see, that's the thing. Their marketing budget needs to go, hey, look, like a Ugly Duckling type commercial where it's like, they go through what's the thing? House rehab or something. They'd be like, your new home. It's like, oh, it's the 2018 design for the future. The all new Nissan Leaf. Like, it needs to go through that transition because people still don't know that this is a new Leaf. I barely found out it was a new Leaf. And I was sitting on the side of a restaurant just eating and looking up the street, and I was pointing out that's a new Leaf. I'm like, no, that isn't.
How different does this look to you, Omar, from what you had?
So it's very different.
I mean, the wheel and the park brake is all I can tell from here, from my short times in one, and the USB-C down there.
Very, very similar. It's not much changed at all.
Yeah. So Dan, I don't see Nissan wanting to spend any money on advertising the Leaf. It looks like they're only selling it for their credits. They can offset their SUVs and pickup trucks. The Aria is where I expect them to put their money, and then they've already started. I see advertisements for the Aria all the time, even though the thing isn't going to be on sale for 6 months.
Yeah. and it's going to start a higher trim. They should.
Oh, for sure.
It should be a really good move to be like, hey, we can get rid of all of our 2018 stock and put it on the road. I don't know why they haven't ever, like, and nobody's paying attention to the Aria. That's the crazy thing. If you're outside of this bubble we're in, everybody knows the Leaf, but they're still thinking the Bug-Eye Leaf. So, you know.
Oh yeah, this new Leaf looks pretty much almost like. Is this?
It's a skin job.
Are these photos? Wait, these photos are the new one?
Yeah.
The 23.
Yeah.
Okay, because it looks.
The last one was a skin job, and this one is a massage of the skin job.
No, I mean the interior looks pretty much
Identical. Yeah.
All
Like-
right.
Like people were saying, oh, it's all new, and then they're finding out that if they had the premium sound system, that they still got that daggum inverter cooler right there in the way of your cargo hatch.
What year did you have, Omar?
So I had the older Leaf. I had the first gen.
Okay.
Actually, I had two of them. My first Leaf was a 12, and that one didn't even have the heat pump. It was resistive heating, so very, very inefficient in the winter. Got rid of that. My second Leaf was a 14, so it had the heat pump.
There you go.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it was still the short range.
Okay. So that's what I'm looking at, the Leaf from my daughter. We still got about a year before she's ready for a car. And I've been looking at the 2018 because that has pretty much all the latest stuff.
Yep.
With the new skin.
Yep.
But still the air cooled battery is but for me, I mean 150-mile range, and it's probably 100 realistically, is great because then she can't get too far away from us. So, where do you think you're trying to go?
Yeah.
And
Vegas? I
these
don't
you
think
can pick
so.
up.
You ain't going to Vegas without my permission.
Vegas, you'll never get there.
It'll take you a week.
I can track you down in my Model X.
Right.
It takes me 4 days.
It won't take you that long because you got the Supercharger network. So, UTI, which is an unfortunate school abbreviation, the Universal Technical Institute, selects Bosch to develop their new EV training courseware, which is pretty cool. We've seen the Tesla START program, the Toyota STAR program, where they train the students in new vehicle tech, and this is needed because if there's no way to work on your car, then that's not good. You have to buy a new one every time, and even the majors don't want that. So kudos to the Universal Technical Institute.
That's good. I mean, it needs to be technical training. I've got some younger cousins, and I asked them what they want to do. They said, I want to go into automotive. I said, well, then major in computer science.
Yes.
Because that's where everything's going. You're not going to be in the car with a wrench trying to beat on something to figure out what's wrong with it.
Right.
You need to know how to program, especially if you want to go into design. Forget about it. Everything's computer.
So then there's a new automotive connector that combines signal, power, and data connectivity. This is coming from ChargeDB. Let's take a look at that. It looks pretty impressive. So this goes into what Sandy Monroe is always talking about, simplifying your assembly, making it easy to use and robust, and reducing as many parts as possible. So it looks like you'll have either these are a bunch of signals or these are high voltage and you got signals on the outside. Let's see. So the Generation Y 68P sealed hybrid inline connector combines a Mate AX mini coaxial connector. So data connectors often find running alongside low voltage signal and power connectors, often creating a complex harness, which leads to higher costs, additional weight, more space, and complicated manufacturing. So this new connector is compact and reliable and supports the ongoing challenges faced by OEMs that can positively and cost-effectively impact the supply chain. So yeah, so reducing the amount of parts you need, reducing the weight, reducing the complexity, making it quicker and easier to install. All of this goes to making the car cheaper to build, buy, operate, and maintain. Kudos. I mean, what more can I say?
Every little tiny bit of savings that these manufacturers can figure out is a plus.
Yeah. So say this saves you $5 per car in your Tesla, and you make 1 million cars. That's $5 million.
Right.
$1 million here, $1 million there. So you talk about real money.
Yeah.
It adds up. Which is why Tesla decided not to include the cable anymore.
You gotta keep
What
going
should they
back
say?
to that.
Look, listen, if let's just say that charging cable cost Tesla $100 to make. Let's just say,
$100 million.
and you're making 1 million cars. That's $100 million. That's real money.
That's real money.
Right. Yeah,
But I think I read
guess
something
when
about they did a study on that too, though. They saying who don't use
Really?
all that.
Yes,
Well, I
yes,
use
they
mine.
have the data, so they know whether or not people are using them just because they have the data from the cars, right? The cars basically tell on you, and they're looking at the data and they're saying, well, most people don't really use it. Yeah, but when you
When you do
need
use it, you needed it.
right?
It's like a spare tire.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So basically, they're just making you pay for it. Is what it is. They're just not
Right.
including it. And they're just making you pay extra.
Right.
Well,
But
No.
If you wanted to
hopefully-
do that, just do like you've been doing. Just raise the price of the car a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, just kidding. No,
Let's do
I
this.
used to have a straight NEMA 1450 in my garage, and I was charging for years with that cable. That was it. We just plugged that in, and that was all I used until mine burnt out. I literally got rid of it yesterday, and
wow.
my mother-in-law wasn't using hers, so she gave us hers to use. I tried to order a new one. They're out of stock, of course, and so I've just been using hers on emergencies. But like I told you before, most of the time I charge off site where it's free.
All right. So they've automatically selected for me the long range and the big wheels because they want me to get it faster. Let's add a tow hitch to this thing. And let's do a 5-seat white. And let's add some full self-driving. Why not? And then October to January. All right. Let's do feature details. I want to see where they're talking about the charging because that was just, they say you can buy a Tesla in a minute, and they're right. But here we go. Convenience. Nope. Okay, take the tow hitch off. Feature details. Tell you about speed. Elon suggested that they would make easy charging. Elon suggested that they would make it easier to add the charger in on the order process. And I wanted to see that in person. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not going to click that because my stuff will probably fill in. All right, so let's just go back to the Model Y page and go to the charging section and see what they have to say. And the reason I picked the Model Y is it's their bestseller and it's the one they're focused on. So if they were going to update any web page, it would be the Model Y web page. All right, place for everything. Dual motors, go anywhere. Autopilot. They removed the radar cone because it doesn't have radar anymore. They really want me to order now. Like every button is order now. All right, so you got the owner's manual, order now, compare. Where I don't even see where they talk about charging. Supercharging, but they don't even mention the where did it was it on the order page? Or was it only when you
What you
were
talking
on
about
mobile?
again now?
I'm trying to find out where they even talk about that you have to buy the charger separate.
Oh, I played with it too ever since. I haven't seen that since they announced that. Was it official though yet though?
Yeah, it's
Is
official.
it official?
It's
It's
official.
official.
Yeah, I was just trying to make it so I could see it like everybody else sees it, but I'm not seeing it. Oh well. So let's get back on track here.
Yeah,
I
that is
just
kind of-
one live.
They should, they got to make that very prominent because you're gonna buy this car, get it delivered, get home, and find out you can't charge it. It's gonna
Right.
be-
And worse, if you're trading one in, you're going to give them your charger, and they're not going to give it back. Like if you've already got one, yeah. Right. So the other Omar made a really good point here. Oklahoma Bill 3994 was defeated, but they just snuck the language into another bill instead. So if you're an Oklahoman, tell your state representative you strongly oppose the new bill, SB 512, and any other attempts to limit consumer choice. If you are a Tesla customer in Oklahoma, hopefully you got this email. So good work defeating it last time, but your work's not over yet with this whole situation with the politics. They're going to keep fighting you to do what they want, even though the whole populace has told them stop trying to meddle. They don't care. They're going to meddle. So, time to fight again.
So with that, I have to dip out.
All right.
Nice talking to everyone.
Catch you soon.
You all enjoy the rest of the holiday and weekend and everything.
Happy holiday.
Happy Easter or
Happy Easter.
Ramadan or whatever it is, anything that you're into.
Happy spring break.
Happy Festivus for the rest of us. Whatever.
There you
go. Y'all take care.
All right.
All right.
So General Motors has announced a deal with Glencore to secure cobalt supply from the Murrin mine in Australia. And this goes to what we were talking about earlier about everybody needing to make sure that they have their raw materials, to the point where our government here in the U.S. has made sure that that there's an effort to do that here. So GM is doing that in Australia as well, which is good. The cobalt will be used in GM's Ultium battery cathodes, which powers the Silverado, Hummer EV, and Cadillac Lyrics. Pretty cool.
Raw materials, raw materials, raw materials. That's what it's all about.
Yep. All right, so then he also points out that Wallbox has begun construction of a 130,000 square foot EV charger plant in Texas. So if your model whatever came without a charger and you're going to charge at home anyway, consider one of these from Wallbox. They're building a factory to support you. There's that.
Wallbox, is this a competitor to the Juice Box?
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this was before the announcement went up. Trev said, I hope they don't do that. Drive Tesla Canada was reporting that the design studio hints that the mobile connector is no longer included with new vehicles. Tesla Scope also said they hope they don't do that, but from what we're seeing from our own data, which Tesla's is more detailed, for those living in apartments, charging spots are not often guaranteed. Many or most elect to use fast charging or supercharging. Yeah, that's what I did at an apartment. I had an assigned spot, but the parking garage was under construction the whole time we lived there. So I didn't want the construction workers to steal my extension cable because it looked just like theirs. And so I ended up supercharging exclusively. Plus, on a extension lead that long, on an outlet that poor quality, I was only getting 10 miles a night anyway, so it wasn't even worth the effort. Yep. So that was leading up to that, but so now we've got some better news. So the LVCVA, the group that contracted Tesla, the group that contracted the boring company to build the Las Vegas boring loop, they have opted for a 1-year extension, and that's good. And then some folks looked at it and they said, well, why only 1 year? But if you look into it, the reason they only went with 1 year is they're trying to secure some savings, because if Tesla gets the autonomy working in the tunnels, then the boring company will be able to lower their price to secure a further extension. So that way, when they commit themselves for the next 5 years, they're not committing themselves at the higher price where they're human drivers, only to find that the boring company can cut the human drivers and keep the profit. So this is actually really smart on their part, because if it's as soon as Elon says it is, then sometime next year the contract will run out again, and then they'll recontract at the lower operating cost, which is very shrewd. What do you think about this?
I don't know about the plan. I do know I'll be in Vegas in a month, so
You gonna try it out?
I'm gonna try it out. Get in there, get a ride from the airport, so I'll get some photos and video to send you. But Elon's always thinking ahead. It's always been next year. That's the FSD is gonna next year. Maybe he can pull it off in a tunnel where there's nobody cutting you off. That might work next year, so that's possible if they let him turn it on just for that part. But
I always thought it made sense to start there, because you're underground, nothing can run into you except yourself.
Right.
It makes perfect sense. But we'll see what actually happens with it. All right. So next up, this was something I thought about as well when we saw the batteries were having the seats bolted directly to them. Myself and ALM, we were both thinking independently that I wonder if you could use the octo valve to do the heat on the heated seats. Instead of being electrical, it would be part of the octo valve system in the future. When you need it, the heat pump will take care of the seat, or residual battery heat will just flow through the seats. And B.R. Cooper pointed out, you mean something like this? Because was it last week? Tesla patent leaked out that showed exactly that. Liquid seat control. And they just plumb it into the battery that's already got fluid in it that's already running underneath the car there. It's pretty cool.
Well, only a company that's as vertically integrated as Tesla can even consider doing something like that.
Right. So then we looked at, it looks like New York is the first in the nation with a plan to electrify all of the state school buses. Every last one of them, which is good. Electrify all the things. That's coming from Clean Technica. If you want to read the article, I'll pop it in here.
Anybody who knows anything about EVs and school buses have already commented about how great an idea this is and how this needs to be done and how these school buses, you charge them up, they do a specified route, and then they sit the rest of the day where they can support the grid, where it's already been proven that children's IQs are lower because of diesel exhaust. And it also usually, you'll find more school bus routes in poor and underserved communities where people don't have cars, and so that's where it's more polluted.
Yes.
So there's so many reasons to do this, and Facebook just hates it. I don't even know why.
They do.
Why do I go on Facebook? Why do I read those comments? They're trying to control our lives and make us get EVs. Shut up.
It's the right thing to do. So all the purchases need to be zero emissions by 2027, and they want to have the fleet turned by 2035. Timothy says, I bet Miss Frizzle likes it. You know what? You're right, because now she can go on more adventures without having to worry about the exhaust, because she's always putting the bus into places, and a diesel bus is not the best place to go into the intestines or down to micro size inside a capsule. So I like it. Right on. All right. So next up, we've got Tesla is changing the off-peak hours at superchargers in California to encourage owners to charge even later. Deadwood, tell us more about that.
Okay.
Is that you? Is that you?
That is my car. How they kidding me? No, I don't supercharge very much, but like when I'm on road trips, I do check that. My last road trip when we did the EV North meetup in San Diego, and I'm looking at where I should stop and charge. I'm looking at this one's 24 cents, this one's 31 cents. Can we make it to the 24? So these when he has off-peak and on-peak charging prices make a difference as to when and where people charge. And you also have to add to that, am I going to go to a 24 cents, but it's a 150 kilowatt, whereas 31 cents is a 250 kilowatt? There's a lot to consider.
It is.
Calculus in there.
Yeah. Or, if that's just for those of us that enjoy doing the, saving a penny. But if you don't care, just dial it in on the map and the car will take you there. Same for the Mustang and a couple of the other EVs. Others, like the Bolt, will tell you to pull out your phone and do it your daggum self.
Yeah, and I would listen to the car. We just got back from Eureka, and I'm driving back. The car told me to stop at one point. I'm like, well, that's not. I want to be a little closer to home. I just want to get to a big city, so I know there's restrooms and stuff around. And so I drove right past the stop they just told me to stop at. And what I noticed is it was empty. It was a 250 and it was empty. I went
was
to
it
the
not online
yet?
They were trying to save you. They were trying to save you the fight.
Yes, I went to the one that I decided that I thought was better. It was full, wasn't line, and it was a 150.
Oh man.
See,
so listen to the car more. That's the lesson. All right. So next up, we've got Leluni Munter points out that shipping generates more CO2 than aviation. This solar powered boat could change that. This is coming from CNN. So we'll go there, we'll paste and go, and then we'll put it in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, we were talking about that once with some younger. I asked some younger kids about what they think about climate change, and they're talking about how shipping is just one of the most dirtiest industries. Now, I don't see that on a supercargo ship having solar power in it, but
well, that's the beauty of them is that you could actually do solar sails.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one cool looking yacht.
Yeah, it's like a yacht. It's like more of a personal yacht.
Yeah, well, it's a little big though. It might be like a ferry or a mega yacht.
Can you walk on those things? I mean, how do you hang on? Where do you suntan? How do you enjoy your
probably in
yacht?
the deck here. Most solar panels are not walkable, but there are a few versions of them that are.
Okay.
Nanoplastic filters. All right, that's another good idea. They want to put nanoplastic filters on thousands of ships in the Mediterranean to initiate a larger scale cleaning campaign. That's pretty smart. Yeah. So you didn't have to go solar to do the right thing, but it helps. All right, so the Jaguar I-Pace is set to continue to decline in Q1 of 2022, which is unfortunate. It's a nice looking car, but they've made misstep after misstep with it.
That car. Oh my goodness.
It's not competitive, but it is an option. If you know, that's the beauty is that you do have an option. If you're a Jag person and you don't care about GM or Tesla or anything, they have an EV for you. But if you're shopping the market, this would not be high on my list of recommendations.
Yeah, I went to the Jag when they first revealed that car. They did the check out and drive here in the Bay Area. And first they make you walk through this gauntlet of all their gas cars, and you get in them, and it's like, what am I doing here? Finally, you drive the car, and after I drove it, the only thing I had desire to do was go drive a Model 3.
Indeed. So next we've got the Cyberlander. It's the drop-in camper for the Cybertruck. They have provided updated details about their prototype. So let's go take a look. There are no comments, so
This is gonna be exciting.
I hope so. All right, so there's a video. Hopefully there's no music.
Oh, of course not.
Of course there is.
Oh, there's music. Yeah, there's music.
All right, so they're building a prototype. How long is this video? Okay, 1 minute.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
the
I like
Cyberlander.
these guys.
Drop-in camper for your Cybertruck.
It was just a nice, cool camper to go on the back of it.
Does your sync stack up?
I like that. I just don't know how their business plan is working, where they're making a product for a product that doesn't exist yet.
Well, it gives them more time to get it dialed in before before the truck exists.
Okay.
But the problem is you can't even like pre-build like 100 units for when the truck lands, because you need to make sure the truck didn't change size before you build it.
True. The prototypes always be how we want it, plus or minus a degree. Well, that's fancy. I like that.
I like that they've got the induction top below the counter, and that's pretty cool.
I like it. I think they're gonna make it less, more or less. They changed diameters because Elon said beforehand we might have to cut 5 inches or 6 inches off. So they'd be like, oh, on our model we have to cut 6 inches to 5 inches.
Yep, so they got 100 million in pre-orders, and I like it. I don't know if I would get it because it costs as much as the truck, but maybe if I could rent it, I think that'd be fun.
Now that's a key business model. We need to rent it. That's a very key one. And I think it's a perfect answer, a third-party answer to that inside little kitchen thing that Rivian has had.
The camp kitchen? Well, don't forget that the Tesla Cybertruck page also showed a tailgate kitchen. So
Okay. My battery tells me I got to get going, guys. This was
all
fun.
right.
Good luck. Good luck with
Good to have
everything
you.
today.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so next up, we've got the Hyundai is confirming the Genesis GV60 electrified will be built in the U.S. What scares me right there is they say electrified instead of electric. That could be meaning that it's a plug-in hybrid or even just a regular hybrid. So let's take a look at the article and see what they've got here. I said the battery life on Wood's laptop. It usually makes it through our happy hours and a good portion of the show without even being plugged in. All right, so let's see what they mean by electrified. So aims to build Santa Fe hybrid and Genesis electrified at a Montgomery plant. So this is probably the Genesis version of the Santa Fe hybrid, since they're coming at the same plant and it's the same style vehicle. That's unfortunate. So next up, the Ioniq 5 grabs World's Car of the Year award. Congratulations to them. And hot on the heels of New York talking about their EV bus plans, Boston will move to 100% electric school buses by 2030. So take that, New York. We're going to beat you by 5 years. That's interesting. I like it. Electrify all the things, especially as we keep pointing out that the vulnerable populations that are susceptible to diesel fuel exhaust. So we talked about NASA. We talked about peak charging in California. X-Shore has secured $50 million in funding to ramp up their electric boat production in Sweden and expand R&D. Electrify all the things. What more can I say about that? It's good to see. So this one has been showing up all over my feed. The VinFast. They claim now more than 65,000 registrations. The interesting thing about this, and a lot of folks were claiming that, oh yeah, if folks are going to say that next up that Elon is going to say, oh, the battery is not included when you buy your Tesla. Well, with the VinFast, battery is not included. You lease that separately from the car. It's not the first company we've seen do this either. And so I responded to all the messages I saw that. There were like 3. I was like, hey, don't give the man any ideas because it's been done. He can do it easily. And then point at these other guys and say, hey, it works. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. And then John Volker was also at the same event. He said 2 of the 3 VinFast SUV models and the Vietnamese maker will offer in the U.S. will be built in North Carolina, which is cool. Shown are the VF9 and VF8 at the New York International Auto Show. Note that the VF9 is a 3-row midsize EV versus the thus far only compact crossover EV in the models so far, outside of the now quite low volume Tesla Model X. Yeah, they keep slowing down the Model X. And continuing on VinFast, when you buy this car and lease the battery, you get 2 free charging sessions when you buy the car. So that's enough to get you home from the pickup spot. I mean, I'll take free charging over no charging, but man, just two sessions, guys. Not 2 months, not 2 years, 2 sessions. Ouch. Might as well not give anything. It's like a 2-piece chicken nugget. Oh. 2 sessions and 160 a month to lease the battery after that. I don't know about this one. So this will work for some people, but all right, so this one I wanted to discuss with Georgia. She brought this article to my attention about the Mercedes-Benz EQXX is driving over 621 miles or 1,000 kilometers on one charge. Let's go ahead and take a look into this. And my responses reminded me of the Volkswagen diesel hybrid, which goes 200 miles to the gallon, and again, also 1,000 miles a tank. They said they can do it now, and it's actually done it with range to spare, with over 11 hours of nonstop driving. So 11 hours in the car is not my cup of tea, which is why I keep saying that, you give me free extra range and I'll take it, but you make me pay for it, and I'll probably stop around 350, unless it's a car that can tow, where I'll stop at 500. But if it's free, I will take all the range you give me. So this is closely previewing a production model whose main traits are low weight, aerodynamic efficiency, as well as taking energy from the sun to go further, which is pretty cool. They demonstrated they can actually do it by going 626 miles, or 1,008 kilometers, averaging 8.7 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, or 7.14 miles per kilowatt hour. That is impressive, because I think my Volt was about 4 miles per kilowatt hour. And then I don't know what my Tesla does, because I measure that in watt hours per kilometer, because that's, or per mile, because that's what they give me. There's more to this, since Mercedes says that the EQXX still had juice for an additional 87 miles. Wow. They just didn't want to drive another hour. They could have just driven for 12 hours straight. Call it a day. Come on, guys. No, even 32 minutes. Oh, come on. They drove nonstop for 11 hours, 32 minutes. They were so close. Just do another 30 minutes and call it a day. Come on, guys. 12 hours straight. This is more than you need. Come on. was right there. Yeah, so this looks exactly like an electric version of that gas car, but you get to sit side by side with your passenger instead of kind of a skew. Moving on. The Model Y for Texas is up for order for some people. As you saw, for me, it was not available, and that was the first time on this computer going to the Model Y order page. So, oh well. So what he's talking about there is the Texas Model Y was available in his area, but not for me. Probably also why I didn't say anything about the charging cable. California wants EV sales to be 35% of total new vehicles delivered by 2025, which is triple the 2021 rate, which, yes, that will accelerate their reaching their goal. About 11% of all new passenger car sales nationally happen in California, giving the state a significant influence over the U.S. auto market, which is true, because there have been cases like where Honda, for instance, will make a California trim, but most of the automakers would just make the one car for the entire nation, or only sell the car in California. And let's look at this. So over in Normal, Illinois, this was not a Rivian ad, but it might as well could be. There's a semi truck that's stuck off the road. They've hooked it up to a Rivian, and let's look and see what happens. I make this bigger without being full screen. Yes. All right, so we can see the semi is spinning wheels. We can see the Rivian torque up.
Oh, he got him out.
And they got it out. I mean, we can do this with pretty much any EV, but it's a lot easier with four-wheel drive and a truck that's meant for towing. But we saw Bjorn do it with his Model X, where he pulled the car up over a tree, and or was it Bjorn? It was somebody in Norway. It might not have been Bjorn, and then they ended up taking the tree down, which was unfortunate for the tree. But get all that torque from zero, and as long as you got the right tires. Hyundai plans to build a EV battery and assembly factory in the U.S., which is always good. And this one was interesting to me. On the Hyundai one?
Oh no, the Rivian one.
Oh no, this is the Hyundai. But go ahead. What you got on Rivian?
I got an update on the Rivian plant in Georgia.
Right. What you got?
Speak after this. Oh, it was done as a what is that? A re-election move. So it's kind of still up in the air if it actually works with the process of not being able to sell it in the country in the state that you actually have the plant in, i.e., Austin. So yeah, I asked my local representative, and he was like, "It's a re-election move," and I was like, "Ugh, like stop it." So I'll talk to more detail later on that one.
All right. So next up, we've got another recall on the Teslas. There's another one on the Boombox. There's going to be another update to make sure that Boombox doesn't work when you're using Smart Summon.
Shouldn't you be able to call your car to you like, "Hello, Michael," and it comes to you like it's supposed to with Smart Summon? Like that's the biggest flex you can use. Now I think they're being nitpicky, and what's that word? Either dark money or some of the big oils like, hey.
Well, Elon pointed out that the Tesla's been, or was it Elon or one of us? Somebody was pointing out that Tesla is more investigated than anybody else for everything else. I think it was Dawood.
I've said that before.
You too? Okay.
Yes.
I think that was what that was.
This is something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Lee is asking, how was it able to pull it out? And you got four-wheel drive, 4 motors, and good tires, and he was on tarmac, and they were on mud. So I think it just worked out with the physics.
And we have also had a friend of the show pull an actual truck and its tow along with the X. So
yeah,
that wasn't surprising. I've actually pulled a car out of a ditch on bald tires in my F-250 because I kept my tires
more traction.
Yeah, to have more traction. I was able to use the strap, pull them out, so I wouldn't get stuck with them either.
So here's a real recall. Tesla's recalled some Model X vehicles over side curtain airbag concerns. So from some 2021 and 2022 Model X refresh cars, the airbag was not installed correctly. They have contacted you and they want to replace your airbag. So if they reached out to you, don't throw the letter away, open their email, read it, and get that taken care of, because safety first. Before any of this other cool stuff that we actually focus on, safety first. All right, so now ATC Drivetrain opens a new lab for battery electric drive unit remanufacturing. People keep saying, oh, what about all the heavy metals and the magnets and the batteries and the blah, blah, blah. As Elon pointed out in his interview at TED Talk, if the battery is worth $1,000 completely dead, just a lump of metal, nobody's going to throw $1,000 in the landfill. They're going to recycle it. And because of the way batteries are set up, once you recycle them, they're 100% recyclable. They come back into being another fully useful battery. So do the same thing with the drivetrain.
If you can get the car to be 100% recyclable, you can actually.
The whole car would be cool.
Not only that, the ICE cars, if you think about it, can be recycled. You just pick and pulls. Basically, you're recycling parts of the car.
That's what that is. And then when it's done, you crush it and melt down the frame.
If you can start doing this, there's no, the EV is going to waste this. EVs, no. You can basically send a Leaf pack, and then it comes out as a new Rivian pack, or it comes out as a new Lucid pack. And if Lucid gets rid of their packs, it comes out as 2 new Leaf packs. That's going to be a game changer. So
right, or as we saw with Gogoro and the Japanese motorcycle manufacturers, it could be 100 motorcycle packs.
Yes, and they'd be able to have it interchangeable like that, so you can recycle it and literally have a different battery pack come out for a different manufacturer, i.e. SK Battery, and they can take anybody's battery and remanufacture it for something else. That's going to be a game changer, because now you got a junkyard, per se, full of EVs that can be recycled, melted down their parts, and it's fully zero emissions.
Well, if a dead battery is worth $1,000, I don't think that the battery will ever actually sit in the landfill for very long.
Well, yeah, you get my like a pick and pull or actual junkyard.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I don't think that you'll get there and all the cars will have no battery.
Oh no, yeah, that battery would be gone quicker. That battery would be a mechanic special, no more, faster than you can think about it. But yeah, it'll be. I bet you
that the junkyard itself will sell a battery as the car comes in.
Yes, they and it will work itself out. So the junkyards will be able to move into the future of EVs, or have their own section, ICE and EV.
So Northvolt has purchased a paper mill in Sweden for their cathode and cell plant. Apparently there's enough overlap between a paper plant and a cathode plant. I mean, they do come out in sheets, right? So, and rolls, sheets and rolls. So they could probably reuse some of it. That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, what does a paper mill have? I get you. When you lay the metals, you got to thin them out. That makes complete sense.
Yep.
And that's true out of the box thinking when somebody's like, you are purchasing a paper mill, and you forget you have to put paper into sheets. What else you got to put in the sheets? Voila. Then somebody's like, you evil genius. I like this. So I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah. So then Chicagoland bus operator Pace has purchased 20 Proterra ZX5 electric buses. So Proterra is an electric bus manufacturer in, I want to say, in the Pacific Northwest. And they've been building buses for years. And they're one of the more popular ones. Them and BYD have pretty much cornered the market. So that's a good thing. So they bought the 40-foot ZX5 Max featuring a 675 kilowatt hours battery pack. And the claim is the highest capacity currently available for a bus in North America. It's pretty cool. So as we learned, that having the bigger battery isn't necessarily a requirement, but being able to option for that gives you more flexibility. So if it's just included, like I'll take the 1,000-mile battery for free, thank you. Then that allows them more flexibility in when to charge and where to charge. But if they're price sensitive, they can say get the 200 kilowatt hour pack and just plan their routes a little tighter, which is cool.
I think this is very cool. I wish I seen in the top article was going for the Chicago suburbs. I want them to start pushing into the actual city of Chicago so that they have more of a cohesive. If somebody has the work skills that happens to be just confined to the city can work in those other areas outside of the city and still be able to commute for work, that'd be a great thing.
Yeah, and so we also learned that it has a 300-mile range with that huge battery pack. That's more than enough for, as we keep talking about, these fixed route vehicles. They don't need that
Yes.
much, so that
That
gives
could
them
run.
so much possibility.
Yes, that could run for a good couple of routes or half a day, if maybe.
Days. I
Yes,
mean,
days. It's a set route. Like,
yeah. All right, so David is pointing out it cannot be said enough that the right time to start massive reductions was yesterday. The second best time is today. There is no third option that doesn't murder hundreds of millions of people. So he's responding to this tweet by Glenn Peters, not meaning to labor the point here, but for a 1.5C remaining carbon budget of 50%, the emission reductions need to be much more dramatic if you peak emissions in 2025 versus if you peak it now in 2021. Yeah, so putting it off, we're just making it harder on ourselves by putting it off. So we need to do everything we can do now to meet the goals. There's no other way to say it. It's the way it is. Hey, let me like that one too. I might be getting out of Twitter punishment.
this is one of those things where I've seen a lot more issues here, is we're reactive instead of proactive. And there's a fear of, if there's not being more made, then we're going to run out of something. It's that fear of the unknown. Just because they're not going to sell new cars by 2040 or 2035 or 2050, whatever it is, those cars that are on the market now, people will hold on to their cars at least for 10 years, and then they'll hand it off to a family member, or it gets cheaper. So your kid's first car might be a mixture between an ICE or an old, a Leaf. It's a toss up, but those cars will still be in line to be used somewhere.
You're right. They're not going to throw them away, but at the same time, we see in
Exactly.
Norway, nobody wants to be the bag holder. You don't want to be the last guy with a gas car, because
Yeah,
one, the gas station is going to shut down. Two, when you go to sell it, you get pennies for it. So what we're finding is a lot of the folks in Norway that have a gas car to sell, when they replace it with an EV, they go on a little holiday. They drive to the mainland and they sell the car there. So, do you want to be holding the hot potato?
But they can still sell the car. That's the thing. It might take a little effort, make a road trip out of it.
Yeah, but the longer you wait, the more likely you're going to be playing hot potato.
And you're going to get to a point. I was making this reference in my head.
Yeah, we didn't hear that part.
When you get to an older vehicle, like say in the 60s, 70s, you start getting a specialty shop.
Yeah, those will be around. Like people still ride horses today, so I mean,
and you'll still have that.
They're not outlawing gas; they're just making it so you can't buy new ones.
Yeah, it'll make it so that you can work on anything that's 80s to 2022, well into 2030 or something. So
if anybody wants that service,
to it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then VinFast explains their service and their battery subscription. So let's take a look and see what their pricing is on VinFast. Aside from we saw 160 a month for the battery, which sounds impressively high. So the vehicle itself better be also 160 or less, or they price themselves out of a lot of places. So the VF8 and 9. All right, let's do Control F1.
They don't use Vin Diesel as a.
That would be cool if they used Vin Diesel.
It said VinFast, and I'm like, I kept running in my head as Fast 9 and Vin Diesel. I'm like, how do you not use this? It's really.
Right, so the price with battery 1 is $40,000 to $60,000, depending on which car you get. And the price of battery 2 is $41,000 to $61,000. So that's pretty cool. The price difference between the two isn't that high. The problem becomes the monthly battery fee goes from $35 a month for 310 miles and 11 cents extra for every mile thereafter, to $44 a month for 310 miles to 15 cents a mile for every mile thereafter. That's the flexible one. So if you go for a fixed fee, you're looking at $110 a month across the board till you get to the bigger cars at $160 a month. Or you can pay annually at $420 minimum on the flexible, or $528 minimum. Or you can pay upfront every year for your battery, $1,320 to $1,920. So it doesn't sound that high, that bad, but we're coming from a mindset of you keep your battery. Also, battery version 2 will not be available in the US until 2023. All right, so now let's find out the difference between battery 1 and battery 2. $113 number ones. So it doesn't even tell you the difference between battery 1 and 2 in the article. That's helpful. Moving on. The Tesla racial suit that we talked about several months ago has been reduced from 137 million in damages to 15 million. Still a lot. So hopefully the guy hadn't planned on using all 140 million because he's only getting 15.
I also think that this needs to be a lesson to most cultures. What doesn't surprise me about this, if I'm correct with the refresh my memory if I'm wrong, this was done on a factory plant floor, right?
Mhm.
And see now, this is where the factory plant floor, which is usually a place that, from experience, gets largely ignored when we're talking about racial inequality. It was made the same when they say most of the makeup of the minorities in Tesla was at the floor level. So they haven't been pushed through or promoted up or even mentored up into those leadership roles to where they're actually making sure of the uses. So if this is causing from your line that makes you the fixes your bottom line, and you manage to negotiate 137 million down to 15 million, it's going to hurt because now,
That's an appeal. So that
yeah,
they explained to the judge that was out of line with guidelines or whatever their excuse was, and the judge agreed and said, "You guys are still wrong, but here's a
yes,
more reasonable damages
yes,
award."
and what's going to happen is they're going to have to do that retraining like they should have on the floor line, which from experience, there's a lot of grimy things that come from being on the floor line that gets ignored. But again, this is where Tesla got the attention that it should to fix a problem that's always been there across the board. So on that note, I am pretty happy that the award settlement is still there because it should give a notice to every other car manufacturer because
Well,
this will
if they threw it out, they'd be rioting in the streets because
oh yeah,
Tesla management should have stopped that from happening.
very much so.
The whole excuse of it happens everywhere else. Yeah, but
Oh no,
this
I
isn't your
agree.
plant. Yeah.
I agree.
All right. So Rivian hires their first chief sustainability officer, Anissa Kamadoli, and so now they are working on sustainability, which is important because just because you're building stuff doesn't mean that you're off the hook. You need to do it cleanly and you need to manage the waste. And now they're doing that, so that's good. I'm sure they were doing efforts before, but to have somebody whose job it is to make sure you do it right brings a whole nother level to it. It's something that
What was her,
the people have to listen to her.
previous- What was her previous? Oh, never mind. I see it.
Where?
Sustainability officer at the Tiffany Cohen Foundation.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. At Tiffany & Co.
Is that
The jewelry store.
clothes? Jewelry store? That's what I thought. How do you sustainability officer at the jewelry store? I have no.
They have a lot of metal and rocks.
You're
and
right. Blue
packaging.
diamonds, I get it. Makes sense now.
Yeah.
Drastic
All right, so-
industry. Nice.
Yeah. So inside electric vehicles. Sorry, it's not inside EVs. Is reporting that Optibus has rebranded as Roam, representing an expansion of EV technologies throughout Africa. So we talked about them earlier, not this show, but earlier in the show, about this African electric motorcycle manufacturer. And so now they've renamed themselves from something obscure as Optibus to Roam. At least now if you see the word Roam, you might think it has something with driving somewhere. And there we go. Always glad to see, a local solution for bringing up your people. And what better way to do this than with local motorcycles that they're going to be tailored to the local market.
And can go literally everywhere.
They've
Like,
got
there's no.
so many of them right there. That's amazing.
If you ever seen a foreign movie or any action movie in a foreign location, the
They always end up on a bike.
Yes, it is always a bike unless you got the car that you particularly know can fit in this entire space. But when you're talking about rooftop driving, and
Oh, you
all
mean
that-
unless they got an advertisement to
yeah, right.
to be in a Jag or a Aston Martin or
Yeah.
whatever? Yeah.
Or what it was in when they had the Mini Coopers as a part of the Italian Job, where
Right.
the Mini Coopers particularly be the car that they need. So yeah, this is great. I'm excited for it, especially when it comes from the actual place that's needed, and they usually source it from their brains where it says this is how the bike needs to change from what you have because of our terrain and because of the resources. If they can get those and solar it to all the sun that they're getting to charge their batteries for their bike, that'd be awesome.
Well, that's on the customer. So Tesla fails to receive
Yes.
funding to install superchargers in Texas with universal connectors. So I'm not really actually sure the history on this one. Tesla had applied for some money to put in CCS chargers, and they didn't get it. It was revealed last year that Tesla had applied with Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TECQ, to receive funding to install superchargers in the Lone Star State. Making the application interesting was the program required Tesla to either install CHAdeMO or CCS connectors along with their proprietary connector, just like we see in Europe. Or actually, in Europe, the V3 superchargers only have a standard connector. That would not work here because if you install a bunch of superchargers and people here can't use them, there would be riots in the street. Making the application interesting, blah, blah, blah. This led many to believe that Tesla would soon be opening their network to other electric vehicles, as we see in Europe, by installing superchargers with dual connectors. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen as Tesla was not selected as one of the recipients to receive a share of the $21 million in program funding. I think we might see that CHAdeMO adapter come a little bit more up to speed at this. So Tesla was requesting as little as $30,000 per charger, while others were asking the maximum $150,000 allowed into the program. So this is another thing we keep saying about the Musk companies. Like they do tend to be pretty efficient. That's why they keep winning these bids, and then they find a way to actually do it and make a profit. So the Boring Company was underbid, and they did it. SpaceX, everything is underbid, and they keep doing it. And then even the Tesla stuff is usually like this, which is pretty cool. It's the right way to do it. That's why Elon's always preaching about having dual bids. So that way, the one that actually claims to be cost effective, let them get the bulk. Then you've got a backup that's almost as good, and then everybody else who's just out of the park, they lose.
All I can see from this is the biases and then the background lobbying politicians of this. Because if Tesla is the leader and they can do this within what 10 grand, was it 10,000?
30,000.
30,000
versus 150,000.
Yes, versus higher 50,000. Tesla is not above sharing their knowledge, but if Tesla's asking for only that much, why not give it to them? Why would you deny it?
It might have been like a poison bid where certain other extra requirements are like it must also come from a company whose name starts with F or something like that.
Right. And it's crazy because now you're wasting money.
I can't see. I didn't see the whole bidding request, and I didn't see Tesla's bid or the others. But there's got to be more to it than just the price, because maybe they're giving them something else with that 150,000, and they better be if they're coming in so much higher.
It must be from a union place. It must be from
It's probably
three
stuff like
parts
that.
of this. It must, like you said, it must begin with something other than a T. They must have 5 plants in 3 different states, and even though they opened up the largest plant ever in the state of Austin,
so if Tesla had been selected, they would have been able to install 700 chargers. Instead, the program will see 170 chargers installed because they selected the most expensive options, and the applications that were selected will see almost all chargers installed at gas stations. So maybe people doing the gas stations didn't want to see the big old red T's on their spot. The decision is also strange considering Tesla moved their headquarters to Texas and opened their brand new factory in Austin. So yeah, that's another point, is that now they're a local company versus foreigners.
It's all about this, and
they're still not allowed to sell in Texas, despite the fact that all the politicians were at the party. Any chance this will be investigated? Yeah, Tesla could file a protest bid, and then they'll have to investigate it. And corruption at every level. What else could you expect? And I bet with 150,000 a site, they'll install the cheapest, slowest chargers they can pocket the difference in price. That's probably the case. I don't know about the corruption part, but the rest of it for sure. How is this not some kind of fraud? They should have a fiduciary duty not to waste public money. The superchargers are the highest quality chargers and the cheapest due to Tesla being vertically integrated and super experienced in making chargers. Superchargers also seem to be the most reliable and easiest to use. They are arguably smaller and more attractive. So yes, but then again, we don't see the little secret string on requirements or what the other people said they would do. But it is possible that there's some collusion corruption going on.
We just went over this a few happy hours a few shows ago, where they just basically assembled it lob the whole thing in, wired it in, and move off. And it's like, these other bids are going to come in. This reminds me of the Zuckerberg $1 million donation to the school, the New York, New Jersey schools, whatever, and none of it got to the school.
They argued about how to spend the money, and they spent all of it arguing about it.
That's all the money went to, is how to spend it. By the time they figure out how to spend it, there was no money left. This is what it reminds me of, and it's frustrating. It reminds me of the altruistic spending philanthropy thing that Elon talked about earlier, but carry on.
So I don't speak this language. I don't read this language, but I know what they're saying right here. It's 100% electric, baby. So American Lung Association says EVs save lives. Interesting picture to put with that. But yes, electrify all the things. That's an electric concrete truck, not cement. Cement is dry. So concrete is the finished product that you put out and it hardens. So this is exactly what we were saying earlier with the noise pollution. Air pollution also is another thing that you need to avoid. 110,000 avoided deaths would be avoided from transitioning to electric. 2.79 million asthma attacks, 13.4 million lost workdays avoided. So to read further into this, I've got a link right here in the chat. The thing behaves interestingly when I put stuff in the chat and push enter. Like it tries to go there again. So the top 10 list. The report claims the top 10 urban areas in the U.S. most at risk from airborne pollution are Los Angeles, Long Beach, New York, Newark, Chicago, Naperville, San Jose and San Francisco, Oakland, Philadelphia, Reading, and Camden, Washington, Baltimore, Arlington. Yeah, I can totally see that. It's gritty up there. Miami, Port St. Lucie, Fort Lauderdale, Houston to the Woodlands, Detroit, Warren, Ann Arbor, and Dallas, Fort Worth.
Of those 10, I was just in the DMV area.
Yeah,
and
drove right on through. Didn't even say hi.
It's exhausting with
I understand.
2 6-hour drives a day. But no, see, when I tell people there's a different style of living, while there's a quality of air, the particulates in the air are particularly different. But it's a mindset that you have to go. I can tell the difference in the air.
Yeah.
Now that I've been there and been back, say in less than 5 years, that was that gap. But to get the public within like the Philadelphia area, within the DMV area, to understand the congestion issues and to be able to understand that, it's going to bring down that health issue cost, because you spend less money on Medicaid. Now you have more money for the highways if they spend it appropriately. But I can tell when I say I miss home, but I don't miss home. That was one of the reasons I realized. And I just realized it when you were speaking about it. I was like, there is an air quality difference.
But yeah, I'm not that far from it. I'm 15 to 30 minutes spending on traffic, assuming there's no crashes. And you can tell the difference from where I am to DC proper, and
there always crashes.
It's measurable. Not always. All right, so next up, Tesla Model Y is joining Gravity's fleet of all-electric New York City yellow cabs. And this is good, because we were talking about how was it Revel? I believe it was Revel. Was getting their rideshare Model Ys and having such trouble with the taxi commission. Well, now we've got an actual yellow cab. Like we saw a couple Model 3s that were yellow cabs. Now we have got an actual Model Y yellow cab. Music, of course. Hadn't tested it. Oh, they've also got Mach-E's. Did you see that? Look at that, Mach-E's. Electrify all the things, baby.
This is one of those things where I in this you can,
because it's a taxi, you can street hail it.
Yes, not only can you street hail it, and taxis don't have to worry about the competition. They needed it, honestly, in my opinion. But to be able to say, "Hey," and your drivers can actually hear you
walking here,
or you just block out the sound from the noise in the background and actually find your cab and do something else. Mm-hmm. There's always room for competition, and as we see there now, the taxi cabs just had to confirm. They just had to be like, "Oh, Revel, Uber's paying extra $1 per their drivers for them to come around, and everybody needs extra $1 in New York City." So for them to come around and know it affects their bottom line for medallion sales, I'm glad to see it.
They already had since December. They had Mustang Mach-E's in there, and this is under a pilot program adopted by the Taxi and Limo Commission earlier this year. Okay, and the infrastructure startup says that the Tesla Model Y are the first to ever be commissioned as yellow taxis. Mind you, Revel already operates Model Ys in NYC, but those are livery cabs, which means they can't street hail. You need an app. The Tesla Model 3 sedans have entered NYC yellow taxi status as well. Yeah, we saw the different ones where some of them had instructions on their wrap about how to open the handles because the original one didn't have instructions, and you learn. But this is cool. This is very cool. Oh, look at it charging right there. All right.
Most people have that complaint that.
Oh, this is at the auto show. Look, they're inside.
And you can take it inside without having to open up a whole bunch of things.
Oh man, when I went to the auto shows and they would like if I get there early or stay late and they start moving the cars, oh my goodness, the smell is just like oh. And this is when I drove a gas car. I was driving a hybrid at the time, but it's inside and they have to like move it. It's not like pulling out of the garage where there's like a wide open space and it just takes a second. They're maneuvering them around and yeah.
All
right, so
slow so everybody admires it.
Yes. So Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley are going to lead Mobileye's IPO. Intel bought Mobileye, and now they're IPOing it, which is interesting.
Ooh.
Also, the guy Green Hill Capital, who was took out that full color page ad on anti-FSD, he was mad because Tesla stopped using this company, which uses his software, and now he is running for. I don't know, governor, senator, some crap. He's running, but he's not really running. He's running in the sense that because he's an actual local politician running, he gets the ads for cheap. So he's abusing the system to take out more anti-FSD ads. And of course, if he gets it, he's going to be pushing to make FSD illegal.
Again, for once, we need somebody to actually do things for the right reasons, and not for capitalistic reasons.
That's all he's doing. Yep. So if you're into stocks, that's something to talk to your advisors about and see if you want to get into it. Because this is not a stock show. This is not, we're just dudes on the internet. Sorry. This is not advice.
That happen like the stocks of the things we see.
Mobileye is like the next best option if you can't get FSD at the moment for somebody who doesn't have the whole array on top of the car. Mobileye is also doing it with pretty much just cameras. Folks are going. This is just a comment. It's not really news. Folks are going really hard on the making it too late to do anything. The new mainstream form of climate denial. This goes back to that chart we were looking at earlier. Please do not listen to that. There's an immense amount to do that can help people through crisis. This is too much, in fact, for any of us to waste time feeling hopeless. Yeah, that's what they want. They want you to sit there and curl up in a ball and cry and get out of their way so they can make more money selling fossil fuels. What you need to do is keep doing the right thing in your own personal life, keep pushing for your organizations to do the right thing, and then keep lobbying your own politicians to not take the money that's coming into politics because you are their citizen, their constituent. You need to have them represent you.
I think one of the great things to be about this, if you give it to them in numbers form. If you
it's too late to do anything, awkwardly waits as enough time to do something goes by. Yes. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
It's fine. If you go back and tell your employer, say, hey, can we get charging here? And they're going to go, well, why do we need charging here? And be like, this is healthy. Hey, if I'm always at work, I don't have to leave so much of your medical time. They go, oh. And then they install it because you're going to be at work more because you're not sick. And you start giving them the numbers. So they go, oh, this does affect our bottom line. And then you go back to the politicians. Hey, if I'm at work, I can still pay my taxes. Would you rather get that lump sum or the entire sum over my life here? It hates to have to make your life quantifiable like that. But once you start doing it, it's like, oh, maybe we should go to the EV because it makes more money for us because the person who's driving it is back at work. They can still pay their taxes. We can still get taxable money off their income. It's that process that they need to understand.
So Tesla is posting a minerals and supply chain job in Toronto. So any of our Canadian viewers, if this suits you, apply. Because this goes back to what we were talking about where the price of lithium has gone up. And it's not just lithium. Everything has gone up. But lithium was just so bad. We showed the chart last week how bad it went up. And So they're also feeling the pinch, not just raising the prices, but they want to. Nobody wants a $35,000 car for $100,000. So Tesla's actively fighting that inflation of their price. So if you have the skills, you can help them with that mission. Apple today has announced that its suppliers have more than doubled their use of clean power over the past year. It has prevented 13.9 million metric tons of carbon emissions, the equivalent of removing 3 million cars from the road per year. This goes back to what Dan and I were just talking about pushing, your organization. I think the Apple donut is covered in solar panels, and now they've also forced their suppliers to do the right thing as well.
Not to mention, you can see it from the sky and be like, "That's my job."
Toyota is to launch an electrified SUV version of its Crown sedan, the first Toyota exported to the U.S. the first Toyota exported to the U.S. in 1950s. So the Crown sedan literally is a vehicle that moves the crown. The limo for the head of state in Japan is the Crown, the Toyota Crown, and it's very similar to how we have the Beast limo here. They got the Crown. But executives and other VIPs can buy it there, and then eventually, as they get used, we can buy them here once they age out. And so to have their royalty and their president and everybody else in an EV is a good sign. Thank you, Toyota.
Especially when the battery's low enough that it doesn't be moved, and you don't need it to be. It could be a quick beast instead of a type of beast that it is.
Yes. So we need to be next because we just got beat by Japan. Essentially, is what they're showing us. The unsupported cars. That's telling, not shelling. Reading Ukrainian there. Unsupported cars of Ukrainian owners can now charge freely on superchargers in countries bordering the Ukraine. Yay! This is what we keep seeing every time there's a disaster. Tesla makes free charging for everybody to get the heck out, and you'd love to see it. And here, they don't even support these owners because they don't sell in Ukraine. They got you. They got you anyway. Look at that.
This is one of those things where I remember back in the day where I think it was the 65 watts and the 75 watts was just a software update or software thing to do. And all they did was when people tried to flee Florida, it was like, here's your 75 wattage so you can go further. And that was a cool thing that they did too.
Here's something you can do if you buy the Tesla mobile connector that's no longer included with the car. You can charge your Tesla off of a Rivian or a Cybertruck, as the case may be. Yeah, look at that. This is coming from Brandon at Tesla Instaflex. I already like that one. Yeah, look at that. Yes, one can charge a Tesla from any 120 or 240 outlet. That means you can equip a Tesla with a 120, 240 outlet. All of the Teslas can charge from it. Feature request. So true. Oh, see, did you see that? Twitter didn't want me like that. It was 18 already, and I hit it, and it went up to 19 and went back down to 18. I don't know what I did to get in trouble with them. Always in Twitter jail. All right, so Tesla Giga Shanghai is to restart production on April 18th. This has since been corroborated with other news sources. This is coming from this particular news agency. I don't speak Chinese or read it, so I Mandarin. I did a AR translator, and it matched up with what they were saying. So, moving on. And we talked about that. They're 10 to 20 days in the factory. Starlink mesh Wi-Fi router is launched for $130. So if you're not like me, where you're going to do the Ethernet connection to the Starlink, but you need more coverage, you can now get additional units and put them throughout your house to throw the signal even further. House or business, whichever. So you can get that at Starlink.com, log in, and then buy you another one.
The fact that you could get one Starlink to basically cover an entire large mansion-sized house and send it across is pretty cool.
Yes, exactly. All right, so the F-150 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning Pro and XLT trims are sold out. So if you wanted one for 2022, you're SOL. Sorry, but that's a good thing because that means that that they priced it right, they marketed it right, and they sold them all out. And they increased it twice, from 40,000 to 80,000 to 150,000 units. So I keep saying I don't know why Mary thinks she's leading when it should be Ford getting all this news.
The means that they got it to 150,000 units means their union was like, listen, This is about the limit we can do. Okay, stop it.
Well,
Just
it might,
tell
it might
me
not.
slow
It might
down
not
for a
even be the
minute.
union. It might literally be they couldn't get enough batteries or motors. Or remember that we're still in a supply
Something had
crunch.
told them. Something told them, like Elon tends to do with his companies. We can't do this. Stop saying more. You might as well say we're sold out now, so we can catch up. Okay, chill.
Hopefully, they phrase it as 2022 is sold out, not just sold out, because to stop taking orders would be just stupid. Moving on, Fiat first showed off the 500 electric in New York, and they should sell it here too, but they don't. So there's an article there on Autoblog Green, but since they don't, let's not do any of that verbal waste of time. The officials from the city of Austin traveled to Las Vegas to meet with the Boring Company on potential tunnel network. So remember that the Boring Company had put in a bid in Austin to make some tunnels going to the airport and the factory and a bunch of other places. So the city officials there are going to try it out firsthand. Always makes sense to see what you're buying before you do, if you can.
If this tunnel works from Austin to Vegas or California,
Well, it's not going that far yet, but it could.
yeah, that's impressive. That means less. You won't say there won't be less flights, but there's always a place for everything. But that's going to be major in dropping off the air pollution, the sound, and the fume pollution off of a airplane, which make your pilots happier because they're getting overworked. Therefore, make
Yeah.
it safe.
All right, so here's how the Kia Neo's Airblade works, except I pasted the wrong link. Let's just do it this way. Click and then share this instead. All right, so Kia says the funky design piece is functionally aerodynamic. I wonder if they're going to paint it like that. I doubt it. So they're still making the Nero? Interesting.
Yeah, they got it in the EV form. They're
well, yeah, they got EV, plug-in hybrid, and hybrid.
Yeah, I've seen the 2020 still on somebody's floor, and
Yeah,
they're
make
trying
sure
to still
you
get rid of what they're doing.
can't miss it by walking by the car. Painted in a contrasting color, the blade runs from the top to the bottom of the rear door all the way down to the wheel cladding. Okay, so I thought that might have just been because it was in the show, but no, that's all of them. Kia's name for the piece, the Aeroblade, does some of the explaining by itself. If you look closely, you can see there's an opening in the blade partway down where the window runs into the door. Air is channeled through this opening and then exits the back via a similarly sized opening. You notice the strapes on the door molding. Yeah. Yeah, okay. This helps direct the air where Kia wants it to go. The apparatus brings improvements to aero, wind noise, and overall stability. So basically, they're making a camback out of air. That's actually kind of cool.
Yep.
Okay, so they're not all black. They're just contrasty. It's an interesting design choice. We worked together with engineering and found that this actually would be slightly better aerodynamically if we had some pass-through versus it not being here at all. Yeah. And then it also might help keep that area of the car cleaner. We'll see. Nifty. There's another copy of that same article. And this was interesting and good. The Porsche Taycan continues to outsell the 911 in 2021, quarter one of 2022, which it's like we keep saying, once people get a chance to, an EV is more luxurious feeling than a fossil, and the people with the money for both of these are starting to recognize it, and nice.
I think they're also starting to realize the overall money because, like we were talking about, the $30,000 oil change. They're like, wait a minute, this doesn't give me the $30,000 oil change. Well, I can buy, a whole nother cars in 3 months of not doing this $30,000 oil change.
Luis has a point here. It might be there's no 911 for sale, only Taycans. That's the way it happened in 2021, 2022. The 911 was the most wanted car to buy, but don't have it. Well, that's still a good thing. Less fossil on the road. No surprise, Taycan time. Yeah, I'm seeing them everywhere around the district. All right, so I couldn't like the article, but I could like a comment on the article. I don't know what I did to make Twitter mad. At least they didn't kick me off. This would be a really bad thing.
Wait till he fixes it when he buys it. Sorry.
Right. I even signed up. For their Twitter thing, and it gave me the ability to like some of them again because I wasn't able to like anything before I gave them some money. Porsche needs to do a 911 EV, it'll be their best selling vehicle of all time, especially if it doesn't do well. Isn't the Taycan a 911? Oh, no, but the 911's a coupe, and the Taycan's a sedan. Okay. Yeah, they should. They should.
I've seen one live and the touring edition. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, here's every electric vehicle that currently qualifies for the U.S. federal tax credit. So if you don't want a Tesla or a Nero covered all bases. Yep, that's right, Eddie. So if you don't want a Tesla or a Chevy, at the moment you can still get a Toyota. Here is the list of every EV that currently qualifies. Let's take a look and get a sampling. You tell you how it works, how much it is. Sorry for you guys watching me scroll. I don't scroll the way you guys do, or most of you. All right, so Audi's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models. So Audi hasn't run theirs out yet. BMW hasn't run theirs out yet. BYD, I didn't know it was legal for them to sell here. All right, cool. They got theirs still. I mean, I knew they could sell the buses. I didn't know they'd passed the crash test for the cars. ELMS, which is Electric Last Mile Solutions, they have an urban delivery vehicle that still qualifies. So if you need deliveries, look at them. Fiat, if you can find a new Fiat 500e 2013-2019, it qualifies. Ford Focus EV still qualifies, as well as every other Ford. Mustang Mach-E, E-Transit. GM is not currently qualified. They ran out. Hyundai still qualifies. Jaguar, the I-Pace is right up there. And I keep telling you guys about the Candy. It's a $10,000 car with a $7,500 tax credit. It's an option. It's an option. That's $3,000. I mean, I would love something like that when I was in school. And yes, do it. Kia still qualifies for it. Lucid, Mazda. If you can stand 125 miles for $40,000, you can get $7,500 off of it. Mercedes still qualifies. Mini, Mitsubishi. They still make the iMi? Oh no, they don't. If you can find a new iMi, 2017 or any of the other models, then it qualifies. I'm surprised that the Mitsubishi Outback plug-in hybrid doesn't qualify. It might not have a big enough battery. But that's smart, because unlike Toyota, wasting their credits on the plug-in Prius with 11 miles of range or 22 miles of range for the Prius Prime, they get to save theirs for when they come out with a real EV in the US. Again, assuming that they don't wait long enough for the laws to change. Nissan still qualifies with the Leaf and soon the Aria, at least until they hit their number. They were so close. I don't know how they just... They're like a tortoise and the hare watching Nissan. They were so far ahead, and then they just took a nap. They took a nap right there. Got beat by the turtle. Polestar, they're new. They still qualify. Porsche qualifies. Rivian better qualify. They're new. Oh man, Bezos is raking it in. The electric delivery van 700 qualifies for $7,500. Snap! I didn't even think about that. So yeah, so if you're in line for Rivian, you better hope yours delivers before Bezos runs out all the money. Smart USA still qualifies. They don't currently sell in the US because all their dealers had a hissy fit because they went electric. But if you can find a 2019 model, you can still take your credit. Tesla is currently out of credits, just like GM. Toyota is nearly out. The RAV4 EV, if you can find one. The Priuses, the plugins, and soon the BZ4X. Volkswagen still qualifies, and Volvo. All right, so if you're not purchasing anytime soon, bookmark this article I just put in the chat and check it out before you buy. This one, you used to be able to buy your Model S or Model X after your lease was out. So it gave you the same options as every other lease, where I agree, Eddie. I thought Nissan would have run out a long time ago. They had such a high lead, and they just gave it all away. So you used to be able to have the options of a regular lease with your Model S and X. You could buy the car, trade the car, or just turn it back into Tesla and get another one. Now, you can only turn it back into Tesla and get another one. On the Model Y and Model 3, you used to be able to trade it into another dealer. You can't do that anymore either. So your only options if you lease a car from Tesla is to turn it back into Tesla, or you can do a lease extension and get some few more months out of it. But this goes into where Elon said that at Giga Texas that that FSD is coming this year. Apparently, enough people in the company agree with him that he was able to, or that they changed the leasing policy. That, or they wanted to make sure that they had enough used cars, and the used cars could not be sold at third-party dealers. If you purchase the car, you can still do whatever the heck you want to do with it. Sell it to whoever, trade it in a regular dealership. But if you lease it, all 4 models cannot be turned in at a dealership, and the 2 S and X, you can no longer buy them yourself after the end of the lease. They have to go back to Tesla, or you can extend it and then turn it back into Tesla. And unlike Hertz, they're not going to call the cops on you if you extend it. They are bad with paperwork, but they're not as bad as Hertz.
Right.
So Stephen Elliott says Tesla's preparing to have all their off-lease cars running on their own robotaxi network, generating. Yeah, that's what I just said. I said, "Wow, this is a big one." Would have expected it to go the other way, allowing it on the 3 and Y. Confident that FSD is really coming soon, despite a dedicated robotaxi? Question mark. Because remember, Elon also said they were going to have a robotaxi model. So, is this going to just tide them over? The Boring Company San Antonio Loop negotiations are inching forward. Yes. So, as we also saw with Austin going in to take a look at the loop.
I mean, Texas is
BMW.
a big state.
Huh? Yeah, it's a big state.
Texas is a big state.
Yeah, BMW cautions against an EV-only strategy, and I liked the response to this thing. Clearly, that CEO hasn't been paying attention to Tesla's order book. Facepalm. Maybe he realizes that BMW's products are not competitive. That is certainly a possibility, but it's not really. They make EVs, and they are right for some people, so it's not really the right way to go about it. He said, let's not go down this road. They have excellent long-range EVs with great performance and nice interiors. That is exactly what we've been hoping other OEMs would bring to market to help the global ramp of EVs. The efficiency is not as high, but a lot of people don't care, as we see with the Hummer EV. 47 miles per gallon equivalent. But that doesn't matter. It's still better than 8, and it does everything that you want from a large look-at-me vehicle. It does.
Which include, though, the biggest guy you can see in baseball or basketball, LeBron James, inside of the commercial.
Yes. It just means BMW is between a rock and a hard place. They need to join the EV revolution, but can't. Solution, make excuses and encourage others to slow down. That's a recipe for disaster, BMW. I agree. Even though it doesn't show. It went up to 5, went back down to 4. Come on, Elon, your Twitter purchase. That's the only thing I want to see out of it. Look and listen as we get our first video of the Ducati racing electric motorcycle doing hot laps. So earlier we were expressing confusion at why Ducati got it instead of Zero or Harley or anybody else who makes electric motorcycles already. Well, Ducati is making good on their contract for the bikes for this racing series. So let's see. Hopefully we can hear the bikes and not hear music. So now I got to find where they're making the sound. Okay, so you get the point, and let me give you a link to the video so you can hear all of it. And I mean, that's what I would expect a sports bike to sound like. So they did well.
It sounded futuristic. What I don't want people to do is to what did they say on Incredible Suit? It's torquey, because if you get us to regular people in a bike club and they're not aware of that speed to catch, it's going to pop.
Well, these are not road legal; they're race bikes. So
I get it. Some people will acquire them though.
That's what I was about to say next. I bet you somebody acquires one after the race.
And it's going to be very hard because I'm impressed. The drivers are professional drivers. So to see them, I want to see an article where they're actually saying the difference between their ICE counterparts and electric counterparts. I do want to see how they say
well,
that.
You probably need the races to actually start, because right now it's going to be just the test riders. But
Yes.
I would love to see their reactions to the new bikes. All right, so
Same
the New
here.
York Police Department unveils their first marked EV unit, and it's a Ford Mustang Mach E. Good, good. It's a deserving
Or no,
vehicle.
the New York International Auto Show. It's right down the street. Take it.
All right, let's get some other American EVs up in there. So next up,
Right.
Tesla details the Arivon town site solar and storage facility video. Let's take a look at that. Tesla typically includes video that will get me booted from YouTube. We'll try them anyway. So 230 kilovolt substation that ties into the Meade substation outside Boulder. This will help out a lot. Their facility located outside Boulder City, Nevada will be 500,000 megawatt hours annually, which will power over 60,000 homes in the region. I like that it's like always 30 to 60,000 homes with these big battery sites for the measurement. Let's see how Tesla does here. Come on, you're just why you do this to me? Located 20 miles outside of Vegas. Solar as storage, consisting of 528,084 solar panels, 360 megawatt hours Tesla Megapacks, generating more than 500,000 megawatt hours of renewable energy per year to service the local community and cooperative. See, this is what I keep saying. You can put them in the desert, and all these people complaining about land use, like there'll be stuff growing underneath the panels and avoiding 400,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Nice.
You know the crazy thing about this?
What's that?
You can literally put the panels in such a place to where it goes this way to Vegas. You can actually spell out like the top of the Vegas. You'd be like Vegas, and then if you don't see it until you're in the air, be like, oh yeah, we're flying to Vegas. We're flying away from Vegas. Like the solar panels, you can make a path so that in the air it makes a commercial, and it works on two sides now. You're giving
You could do
you
that.
know power, and now it's just the weird thing I saw in my head when you saw this whole swath of blackness for the thing. Just make it a little.
Well, it's not unprecedented. Tesla and SpaceX both spell their names out on their roofs in solar
Exactly.
panels. All right, so
Yes.
Volkswagen is considering making an electric pickup. I'm sure it won't look like this, but I would totally be interested in this because turning a van into a pickup truck often turns out pretty well, except for the Honda Ridgeline. I thought it was pretty good, but people love to make fun of that truck. It
If
was an
they can
Odyssey,
cover
and then it
this
was a
up, that'd
truck.
be great.
What's that?
If they can cover this up to make it look like a van after the fact, it'd be great. So you just take off the thing and be like, "Oh, it's my pickup. Boom, it's my van," and you can put the seats back in and out as you need it.
I don't think they'll let you put the seats back in for crash ratings, but if you could put a topper on it and then use it as covered storage, or
That'd be
not put
great
it
too.
on and have a pickup truck, that would be pretty cool. But it probably won't look anything like this. So they're probably just reading where the market's going, and everybody's got an EV pickup. So why not us? All right, so Green the Only has been hacking away at his Teslas as usual. It looks like the Model 3 and Model Y is getting a second display soon, question mark. I just took a closer look at an AMD-based Model 3 and Model Y car, thanks to some enterprising people, and there are two unpopulated connectors near the display. One of them is marked second display. The electronic parts catalog has it populated, looks like S and X. So it looks like the S and X second screen on the online catalog, but in reality, you get a naked board here. So then, further on in the thread, similar story played out with the original Model Y, unpopulated USB 3 that then got populated in a later revision. Also, a retrofit for Intel cars definitely looks impossible. Totally different power and other harness thicknesses of the unit. The new power connector seems Tesla made. So here's the old one here, and here's the new one. And then a bunch of people are asking him, does it look like a huge commonality for the S and X? And he keeps explaining that no, the boards are completely different connectors, everything. I don't want to rule that out like Green is doing, because if it saves them enough money and chips, I can totally see them re-architecting everything about the Model S and X to fit in a common computer. Why not? But the other theory that came up in the thread is perhaps the second display will be a rear screen in the Model 3 and Y rather than a dashboard screen in front of you. Either one would be welcome.
put the rear screen on the old school headrest, and the kids can play their Netflix.
I think that the headrest would be a better place for screens than down on the console, ergonomically.
But
So this guy tries to explain stuff to Green. I don't know who he is. CEO and co-founder of Continuous Space-Time, living in a simulation inside of simulation, versus the guy who actually takes the cars apart and decompiles the software. So he explains to him, no, if you check a picture, a simple picture of the SNX MCU, you'll see that it's very different. And he keeps explaining that to all these people.
Tesla only removes parts. I get that. I get the reference.
That's exactly what that was. Their statistics are always one way, only better for any Tesla, never the customer's name it. Passenger lumbar, speaker count, radar, redundant steering chip in cars sold in Europe, and now the mobile chargers, complete BS. Green says, if you think about it, it's hard to have use of statistics for parts you don't have. This is true. Oh, and they wouldn't let me like it. You see, they rolled that back too. If you're watching Green, I liked it. You saw. All right, so same connectors, blah, blah. There's one possibility, but the silk screen says second display. Interesting. So let's move on to something a little less navel-gazy. And why Tesla won't lose sleep over other automakers achieving massive range ratings by Joey Klender. Let's copy this link down for you guys so you can read the whole article. I am Eddie says, I've seen acres of windmills. Soon we'll be seeing acres of solar panels. Absolutely. My utility that's constantly lobbying for me to remove the solar panels from my house, they are installing acres upon acres of solar panels. And so their argument about how they can't handle the grid, blah, 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 is complete BS to me because my 27 panels are nothing to your 200,000 panels. Lying liars.
There's never so much thing of too much energy. Again, I've said.
Well, I mean, their argument is that they can't handle it. I'm like, well, if you can't handle 27, where the hell did you get 200,000 from?
Even so,
lying liars.
Else needs it. Like
when you look at how many solar panels are in my neighborhood, if we're not home using the AC ourselves, the best output is in a hot summer day, as far as like where the sun is and who needs it. So if I'm not using it, it's going into my 3 neighbors, and then it's done. It doesn't have anywhere else to go because it's been used up. I don't often call people liars, but they are lying through their teeth.
This is one of those things
by the fact that they then installed so many more solar panels than what they're trying to get me to remove from my house. So anyway, he's saying that the Benz Vision EQXX is accomplishing a major feat. Yes, driving 12 hours on charge. How? I'm trying to summarize it real quick as I react to it for you guys, so you can read it later. Why is it good for Tesla? Huh? This is another thing Tesla's been beaten on. It's a matter of time before others do it too. Tesla won't achieve this. They're stuck in the 400-mile threshold. Elon's already said that they could already beat 400 today. They don't want to for cost and weight and waste, because they can see what people do, as we saw with them removing the charge cable. Putting in the extra range right now is, I don't see them doing it while we have the crunch. Maybe Tesla would care, but maybe not. The landscape of the EV industry has been so obsessed with these incredible metrics that many consumers forget we don't need 600 miles of range. How many gas car drivers go to a dealership thinking, I'll only buy a car if it gives me 620 miles on a tank? He has a point. Look at how many gas cars out there can only go 300 to 400 miles on a tank.
Now, yes, they want 600 miles on a tank.
If it's from fuel economy, yes. But if it's just from having a bigger tank, no, they don't.
Yeah, no bigger tank. Fuel economy, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's a quote from Elon. We could have made a 600-mile Model S 12 months ago, but it would have made production worse, in my opinion, as 99% of the time you'd be carrying 99.9% of the time you'd be carrying an unneeded battery mass, which makes acceleration, handling, and efficiency worse, Musk said. Even our 400-plus mile range car is more than almost anyone will use, as evidenced by the fact I'm running around in a car with less than 240 miles of range on my day-to-day. Like, I can charge it to 260, but I don't do 100% charges for numerous reasons. I would like more range for towing, though.
This is the most
and more pass through towing chargers, because man, when you end up at a place with a charger or the trailer that is not able to come off the car once it's loaded, and then you get to a supercharger and it's either not set up for towing or it's full. Ooh. And then you get so many lazy people who refuse to back into the spots. They pull nose in, and then you get there and you can't use it because you got to wait for Bob to go get done eating and come back to his Model 3 that's been done charging for 20 minutes and leave.
I like the fact that he flexes like we could have built it a long time ago. It's just inefficient. So man, like
Right.
who else says that flex like that?
Right. So here's Elon's excuse. Usage statistics are super low, seemed wasteful. On the minor plus side, we'll be including more plug adapters with the mobile connector kit. And then, after all night of people running his name up Twitter so he couldn't sleep, based on feedback received, we will drop the mobile connector price to $200 and make it easier to order with the car, which they haven't done yet. But again, like we keep saying, the Tesla employees don't all read Twitter, and even if they do read Elon's Twitter, they are not sitting there acting on his every tweet. So eventually, it'll cost $200 and make it easier to order with the car. He claims it's not needed if you have a Tesla wall connector, which is true, or use superchargers. Recommend installing a wall connector well before the car arrives, which is easy to do when it's going to take 10 months for your car to arrive. Andy says this adds another hurdle for new Tesla owners and makes it difficult to explain the convenience of home charging with prospective buyers. I'd love to see revert this decision, or at least give the buyer a go green option to opt out of the connector during order. Yeah, because right now you're kind of appling it. Hey, it took that he went to $598. I'm glad you're listening to our feedback and willing to work towards correcting it. We all just want future Tesla owners to know they're getting adequate charging equipment included. I hate giving gas lovers more to argue about when discussing the content of home charging. Yes. It would have created more fun, and I'm sure it still will. Absolutely. So yeah, even Elon will listen. Here I was talking about TeslaScope came through and pulled some data. So in the fleet that's reporting to TeslaScope, we're a bit perplexed by Elon's statement regarding the removal of the mobile connector cable with new vehicles. While our own data is by far not as detailed as Tesla's, yeah, because you have a subset of the cars. It's not a free service, and everybody who wants it has to then sign up for it and give you their credentials. So yeah, 61% of the sessions were with the mobile charger. 32% used the wall charger. So actually, the mobile charger is more used than the wall connector that Elon is selling. So we were discussing it on one of our groups that Dan and I brought up this morning, and I was thinking that perhaps Elon is seeing the missed opportunity to sell the wall charger, which probably has more profit because it doesn't have to be compact and rubberized and strike resistant and all that, because it sits on a wall, it's bigger. And so there might be more profit margin, even though they cost the same. There might be more profit margin. Well, before they reduced the price just a minute ago, there might be more profit margin in the wall connector than the mobile connector. And then on top of that, the wall connector only works with Tesla if you're not willing to do the third-party adapter situation. So then you're also locked in to possibly getting a Tesla for your next car if they don't make you so mad that you switch brands during your ownership. That's the thinking evil side of me, devil's advocate sort of situation, and that is a real possibility when you look at this data and you look at all the anecdotal evidence of everybody I've talked to who does use the connector. And then in the same group, we have a lot of people who don't use the connector or have only used it once or have never even taken it out of the bag 4 years later. So I think the truth is somewhere in between this selective group that actually is willing to lend their data out and what Elon is reporting. Plus, don't forget, even Elon doesn't have all the data because you have to turn on the share my data with Tesla switch as well for him to get that data, which
another variable that people don't understand is to share the data. Like, hey,
right.
Elon, don't get rid of it. See, I use it. See, I'm showing you now. So that's an easy solution rather than butt heads about who uses it and who don't.
Right.
And again,
so then TeslaScope goes into explain in the data which ones are the mobile charger. So invalid and MC single wire CAN are both used to signify the use of the mobile connector charger. So MC single wire CAN and invalid are what the car reports to TeslaScope when TeslaScope asks them what you're charging on. So AC single wire CAN would be the wall charger. So if you don't count the invalids, which are also mobile chargers, it already beats it right there. Look at that, 47 to
Yes.
42.
Ooh.
Personal bit, we're also a bit disheartened by the proposed removal of the charging connector, as we use it often with visiting friends and many other EVs, including a similar offering. This goes against the smooth transition to sustainable transport, Elon. So another point right there is, yes, during the last 3 years, you're going to see less usage of the mobile connector because there's been less traveling to friends' houses and such. And so, the places you're going are like hotels and places with open air. And I would love to see what Tesla is claiming their stats on, other than the easy, cynical approach that we've mostly all taken.
This is one solution I keep not seeing from people who may or may not know that this exists. Spark charge to the rescue. You send an
There's spark
appointment and they
charge.
come to the house and be like, "We plugged you in. You don't have to worry about this home-based charger, or you don't have to worry about this cord missing. We got your back."
I still like the it's like having a spare tire. I still like having that there.
I get it, like 100%.
Except that, like, right now I'm using it daily, so this is even better than a spare tire. So this is what I was talking about earlier. There's rumor that that on April 17th or 18th, you'll have a 10 to 20 day shift, and you'll live inside the factory and take regular PCR tests. I know it doesn't say 18 on there. I'm combining it with the other stuff that I read. All right. Telosiv doesn't like this decision because most deliveries are first-time EV buyers that don't have these accessories. With Apple removing the charger, the vast majority already had a lightning cable the way they were using it. Of course, Tesla demand is insane, so they can get away with this. I do like that they came down on the price. All these comments I'm sharing about this were before they came down on the price and are allegedly going to put it in the like you saw how I was able to pick autopilot and pick FSD and pick the seats and the wheels. They'll have a selection there to pick the charger, allegedly. So not to mention these accessories are literally sold out of stock. So the mobile connector corded 400 is the one that the order form used to show you as an option. Like, you could pick this, or you could pick the wall charger, and it used to say that this one was included, and then it didn't anymore. So here's the one that used to be included with the car, and out of stock. So let's take a moment to go to shop.tesla.com. A little bit of charging at home. So you get a wall connector or a pedestal that costs almost as much as the charger, or you can get a faceplate for it. All right, on the road, out of stock. Yep. So the one good thing that Elon was saying is that, if you get this done well ahead of the arrival of the car, maybe they'll be in stock before then. But he's saying to get this instead. So $495 versus $400. So there's my theory right there. It's already $95 more, and it costs them less to make, probably, than the nice compact shock absorber, road-ready unit. This does charge you a couple miles an hour faster on all the cars, because this one's limited. What's that?
This is one of the issues where we're not seeing the process, I think. Like, Elon's pulling stuff. Like, say if there's that same plastic for that used, or the same materials for that, and the lumbar supports, he goes,
right.
Really
But he should say that instead of saying, statistics. He should say, hey, we just can't do it. I mean,
numbers don't lie. So, and then, if to all defense, if you're arguing against your numbers, then you got to see what works in that. That's a common conversation.
It would be a lot more palatable if he says, hey, we can't get enough to get these without raising the price of the car by $1,000. Oh, by the way, nobody uses it. Here's the numbers. Rather than just saying, hey, our numbers say, trust me.
And as we know with Elon, yes, that's kind of finicky. So yeah, they could change that policy. That's just something I thought in my head. Maybe there's a different side that we're not seeing that he'll probably release later and goes, look, guys, this is why I really did it. Did I have to explain it? And we'll go,
yeah, he needs to. All right, so we got Brian Cooley from CNET again, and let's unmute him. He is talking to us about a solar solution for folks who don't want solar panel retrofits on their roof and don't want to spend the money for a Tesla solar roof.
Got solar on your house or have considered it, you know there are a few hurdles out there. First of all, it can be a complicated process. Second of all, it can add a lot of cost to what would otherwise just be a roof. And third, them things are ugly, at least if you get the traditional rack mount panels. Solar from GAF Energy, a sister company to the largest maker of roofing shingles. But this one is a shingle that also has solar built in, and there's not much to it. It's a wafer of new tech. I'm here at the factory to find out what it can really deliver. Onto the top of shingles like Tesla's.
These are Timberline. Here's a link to the YouTube video. I looked them up. They look pretty cool. You'll have to get your roofer to buy them and put them on your house. But let's go further in the video here.
Have to get through those dealers all the time.
Right. So he talks about. I mean, it's fine if the company wants to sell through dealers. The problem is when the government forces you to use dealers and the company doesn't want to.
Right.
So he goes in telling you about the shingles and how they work just like existing shingles, so there's nothing to learn for them. He points out that it's using standard solar connectors. It's easier to get it right. This is what it looks like on the roof. So you can walk on them. This, as you were saying earlier on the boat, these are walkable solar shingles. They're not as susceptible to heat. And because they're flush with the roof, they don't need the big lag bolts to go into your rafters. They just need nails because they're just shingles. The reason that the retrofits need the big bolts is because the wind can get up underneath them and lift and yank them off your house. And they went over it with a guy who's putting them together, and I thought it was pretty cool. Something to consider if you're going to retrofit and you don't want a solar roof, because a solar roof is expensive. All right, so the Ford Mustang Mach-E prices are rising significantly due to increased material costs. That happened this morning as I was prepping for the show, so I didn't actually read it. The UK prices for Ford's electric crossover have shot up. All right. Originally started at £41,000, and now you're looking at £47,000. So that's a difference from $53,000 to $62,000 American for the base model. So like I was saying earlier in the show, it's not just Tesla. Everybody's dealing with this. So I had a link to Elon coming up on the price for the. So we talked about that already. Yep, that same one. I don't know how I got it twice. And then another copy of the American Lung Association. So I want to thank you again, Zachary, for the donation. I want to thank everybody else for spending time with us today, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Also, thank you to our patrons and members, of course. Thanks, Anders. You too. Have a good evening.